Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
How many times a week you have a guest on your show? Do you have some times that you have 2 guests during a day?
It's rare, but I did it once last week and then today.
Wow.
Yeah.
That burns you?
Nah,
no?
it's just talking. It's no big deal.
You know,
Are we up? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
it's insane, you know?
Why is it insane?
Because, man, sometimes I can train all day,
Yeah.
you know, but if I do something like this, like an autograph signing or any like things that require more, I would say, meet and greets and stuff like that, that take more out of me than something physical like a training.
That's just because you're accustomed to training all the time. It's like everything else. Like the more accustomed to it you are, the easier it is.
Man, anyway, you look fantastic.
Thanks, you do too.
You haven't aged a bit. You're like wine. You get better with age.
I like the frosted tips, man. What are you doing?
Change my my style. You know, when you get older, you try to look younger. When you're younger, you try to look older.
Right, that's true. Like young guys try to grow beards.
That's
like,
right.
Come on, man, let it go.
I just shaved. I had Lex Freeman podcast yesterday.
Yes.
And I told myself, I said, you know what? It will look weird if I appears on both podcasts in Austin with the same style. You know, so it's better that I so when they put it on the social media, at least it's kind of a different look. So
I saw with Lex, you wore the suit and tie just like him, right?
Men in black style. That's right.
Nice. Reservoir Dogs.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Look at that. Look at you too. I love Lex. He's such a great guy.
He's amazing. I really enjoyed talking to guys like this because you don't meet people like this every day. He's so educated, so smart.
Yes. But also a martial artist.
Agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. He says that he was a big fan. He was kind of intimidated. I said, I'm intimidating talking to you, Lex, because I cannot teach you anything. You know, like you can teach me stuff. I can learn from you. You cannot, in regards of perhaps martial art, yes, but in terms of life, I'm like, in terms of knowledge, you can teach me so much more than I can do.
It's true. If you talk to him about artificial intelligence and AI and machine learning and everything, like, oof.
Bro, yesterday we went deep in the rabbit hole. We like in your podcast, sometimes you curves, you go in the field. With Lex yesterday, we went in the right field, like far away.
What'd you discuss?
Man,
what was it?
At one point, I was the one interviewing him because I'm curious. The podcast took another turn, like a 180 degree. I was the one interviewing him because I'm so curious. You know, when I meet someone like him, I take advantage of it. You know, like it's. I think he likes it. And I asked him about what he thinks about free will. If he thinks at one point AI could be a potential threat for humanity. And
what do you think about that?
He actually changed my mind quite a bit on the subject.
Did you think it could be a threat and now you don't?
No, on free will. Because I never, like, before I met Lex, like, yesterday, before that, I thought that free will was just an illusion and everything is a result of causality, right?
Right, determinism.
Determinism, that's right. A lot of people don't know, but that's called determinism. But Lex came up with a, very good argument, and now I'm not so sure anymore.
I think both things are true. I think it's like many things involving human beings. There's not an absolute in one side or the other. For sure, free will is a thing because we both know about discipline. We both know how difficult it is. Like, you know more than anybody how difficult it is when you're in like a full training camp and you're exhausted, but you know you have the work that you have to do. And there's some people that will find a way out of that work. They'll quit, or they'll not answer their phone, or they'll take time off. And then there's other people that will just bite down and deal with it and be uncomfortable, but do the work. That's free will. That's discipline. There's something, but why can you do it and why can other people not do it? Like, what about how much of your personality was instilled upon you because of your genetics, because of your life experiences, because of the environment that you grew up in? How much of it was the people that you experienced when you were younger that showed you the value and the benefit of hard work? And how many of the people that you mirrored were lazy and then found excuses, and maybe you leaned towards them? Like, how much of determinism determinism is true, how much of free will is true. It's a balance. There's a lot of both things.
That's right. In a mechanical world, if a car breaks, we're not gonna say the car decide to break.
Right.
Or if a trees fall down, we're not gonna say the trees decide to break. Maybe the asymmetry of the tree makes it falls down. Maybe there's a reason why. But I feel that us as human beings, sometimes our ego want us to be in control of the universe, which is, I do not believe it's the case. So that's why I tend to, before I met Lex, I was 100% convinced there is no free will. And, everything is determined by causality. Now I'm not so sure, because we talk about consciousness, what it is, and he had some incredible argument, and he made me see a different point of view that I never seen before.
Well, just think about this. Think about how many people seek out inspiration. Think about how valuable it is. Like Matt Frazier was on my podcast a couple of weeks ago. He was a 5-time CrossFit champion, and one of the things that he does now, he has this art collection that he's selling on his website, and it's all these inspirational quotes. And the idea is to put up this art with all these inspirational quotes, and that will give you fuel to get through your workouts or get through difficult things that you want to do in your life. We all are like, how many people post inspirational things online, and then how many people read those things and get excited, and it inspires them to action? There's some real cause and effect.
That's right.
Where there's inspiration and then there's action that's motivated by that inspiration, whether it's going to The Rock's Instagram and watch him at 5 o'clock in the morning, The Rock here working out in the Church of Iron, like all the shit that guy does, or all these other Cam Hanes or David Goggins, all these other inspirational people that are online. Why are they so motivational? Why do so many people flock to them? Because there's a reality to there's a give and take to these things, and there's certain things that inspire you to action. You can externally be motivated by those things. It's not necessarily 100% determinism. There is some free will.
Well, however, there's, for example, a quote that can inspire you, but to me, it doesn't have the same effect because of my background. It doesn't get me to my core, because I cannot rely really much to it. So it's a little bit of determinism, because it's the causality that makes it who I am and who you are that makes it the effect of that quote has on you is different than it has on me.
Or you could both grow up in the same environment. Like you could have a brother that's inspired by things that are not even remotely inspirational to you, but to him, it's everything. Whether it's music or whether it's a movie or a book or whatever it is.
It's true. Like in families, very often you have someone who's going the right way, and perhaps one of his siblings will go the wrong way.
Yeah.
And we always tend to say, oh, we don't understand because they've been raised the same way, but they did not. Yeah. The moment you take one of your kid in your arm and the other one is looking at the kid that you're, it changed everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does.
It's very hard to understand. But I'm not saying that I'm convinced that there is no free will, but I don't know now. He didn't completely convince me. He didn't completely make me change my mind, but he's got his point in, and now, man, I don't know.
I think the real problem is people that are convinced one way or the other. That's the real problem, because it is an open-ended conversation. I don't think I think determinism is a real factor, but I also think will is a real factor too, in that there's something about the open-ended variability of your decisions, and what you decide to do and what you don't decide to do. And there's moments in your life where you go, fuck it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. And when you do go for it, your life changes. Like, what makes you say, fuck it, I'm going to go for it? It depends entirely on what happened that day to you. It depends entirely on how you feel, whether or not you got rest, whether or not you broke up with a girlfriend, or she broke up with you, or you got fired from a job, or you quit a job, or you took on a new path in life. Like, all those different things play a factor. But there's also your own personal decision-making that's based on your own personality and maybe your own life experiences. There's so many things involved. But for sure, we all value discipline. We all value the ability to take action. Well, why do we do that? Because we know it's a variable. It comes and goes. It ebbs and flows. And sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. It's like, what is that expression? There's an old expression. I don't remember who said it, but that inspiration is like bathing. It's effective, but you need to do it daily. And I think there's something to that. It's like you need to seek out inspiration. And that's why, again, people like David Goggins are so inspirational, because you can go to his page every day and that motherfucker's running 30 miles a day. You know what I mean? Like there's something to that. Like you get fuel out of that. There's people like my friend Cam Haynes, there's people, or The Rock, or whoever it is. They give you fuel. You see them training hard. You go, oh, there's fuel in that. Yeah, like, I want to go train.
They are unbreakable. They have an unbreakable will, and this is very inspirational. That's right. That's right.
So there's two things happening. There's one, it's like, yeah, you are a lot of who you are because of genetics and because of life experience and because of all the things that have happened to you. But there's also decisions that you make. There's lines in the sand where you draw. There's moments when you say, I'm going to do something different now. I'm tired of this shit. Like people that are drunk their whole life and fucked up on drugs, and then one day they go, enough. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to change. And they have inspiration. And then they go to a 12-step program, and they meet other people that also have inspiration, and they feed off of each other.
I think it's important to face adversity. It helps if you face it at a very young age, because it molds you.
Yes.
Especially if you able to overcome it. Because if you never faced adversity before, and when you face it for the first time and you're not prepared for it, it can break you.
Yes.
You know? It can make you fold.
Right.
You see that very often in a career of in mixed martial art. Some of the guys, they've been protected for too long, and then when they face a real challenge, they fold.
Yes.
Same thing in anything, and I think guys perhaps like David Goggins, or when I heard their backstories, because they faced adversity, they had to face an incredible amount of adversity, and they were able to overcome each of it, and they become stronger, because what doesn't kill you make you stronger, right?
Or it fucks you up to the point where you're weaker than you were before.
Exactly. But I think it's a little bit life. I think it could be like a fight if you gradually face adversity.
Yes.
It's like someone who's let's say someone who's very healthy, always pay everything for his kids. His kids is not used to learn the importance of hard work. You know what I mean? I think it's very important, like, to teach that to kids, like the importance of hard work, the importance of adversity, the importance of, not to break them right when they're young and make them lose their confidence, because I believe confidence is everything, right? If you can have all the skills in the world, but if you don't have confidence, it's like someone who has a lot of money in his bank account, but no way of accessing it.
Right.
So by facing adversity and overcome it, you building your confidence.
That's why sports are so important for kids.
Man, and life, and same thing in business. You're gonna reach time that you're gonna go down, and sometime you might go to the down deep. But if you face adversity before, you're used to overcome those obstacles, you'll bounce back from it.
Yes.
That's why I know a lot of people, sometimes they face adversity and they fold. They can't stand up from it. And some people are, hey, let's help them. But if you help them, you always give them help, they will rely on that. They need to learn from themselves. And sometimes I think there's nothing better than reach the down deep to find out, like, how strong you are to come back from that, Yeah,
well, that's a lot of things that people say when they're talking about experiencing drug addiction or alcoholism. They have to hit rock bottom. They hit rock bottom, and then they realize they don't want to be there anymore, and then they build themselves back up. They experience that adversity, and they overcome it. It doesn't break them.
That's right. Sometimes it can fold you, it can break you, but it can make you much stronger.
This is a good point of discussion, because the way mixed martial arts fighters, particularly in the large organizations, whether it's the UFC or Bellator or what have you, they're developed very differently than boxing. In boxing, they take a fighter, and the goal is to keep that fighter undefeated as long as possible till they can get them a title shot. And a really good manager and a really good trainer will progressively increase the level of the opponents that they face.
That's right.
They'll give you an opponent that's a very good inside fighter, give you an opponent who's got a longer reach and fights very well from the outside, and show you all these various problems that you're going to encounter when you face a world-class opponent. Whereas in the MMA, you just get fucking thrown into the wolves. And
Well, your match with someone who, on paper, has a similar record than you do, who has a similar skill set than you do. So it's pretty much 50-50 on paper.
Yeah.
Not always, but very often.
Very often.
I believe the reason why it is like that is because if you look at the UFC, for example, look at UFC, the way they promote the event. UFC is like the Vaseline of petrol jelly.
Right.
People don't say, hey, I watch mixed martial art. They say, I watch UFC.
Right.
So the way they promote it, it's UFC 226, this guy versus this guy on the bottom, but they promote the UFC.
Right.
They don't promote the fighter. They promote mostly the brand. And it's very smart because they have the monopoly over the others, right?
Right.
Which in boxing, they build up their fighter because the money is on the fighter. It's not on the IBF title or, yes, it's IBF title, but it's
people don't care.
Canelo versus Mayweather.
Right.
And then on the bottom, you know for what they're fighting for,
Right.
which in the UFC is the opposite.
Yeah.
So that's the main difference, and that's why it's like that, which is not a bad thing for their business because they're there to make money, right? It's a smart move. But for the fighters, I mean, if you're on the winning hand, it's a good thing to be promoted. But if you're in the losing hand, I mean,
yeah, it's
get another job, you know.
But it's unusual where a guy like John Jones rises through the ranks, where he's 22 years old, he fights for the title and wins. That's very unusual. Yeah. Very unusual.
Yeah.
A lot of times when guys are very young and they get thrown to the wolves like that, they don't like. John is an extraordinary talent. He's very unusual.
One of a kind.
One of a kind. Literally one of a kind. Because he's the only guy other than Khabib Nurmagomedov that's fought his entire career and been undefeated.
Yeah.
John has one loss, but it's a bullshit loss. It was a disqualification, a fight that he totally dominated against Matt Hamill. Yeah, for throwing the downward elbows, which is a ridiculous rule.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's the most ridiculous rule out of all the rules?
Well, if
the 12-6 elbow.
Joe, if it would be up to me, I mean, I would allow almost anything, and I would not even make rounds. I think rounds are stupid. You want to see who's the best man? Let them fight, man. 15 minutes.
What about eye pokes?
No eye poke. The problem is the gloves. Trevor Whitman came up with gloves, you know, because the UFC glove, when you put it on, they makes your hand open like this.
Yes.
And for example, there's gloves like Trevor Whitman made. The gloves naturally makes your hand fold. And that's one of the solutions to the problem.
They're better at protecting your hands, too.
100%.
Trevor's gloves are the best.
I remember
so superior.
I remember every weigh-in, like John McCarthy used to fold the glove and wrap it to make sure but it's still not enough because when you put it on, it makes your hand open.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with the eye poke. And I believe, no, I would not allow eye poke, of course, but I would, you know, no rounds.
What
for
about
sure.
groin shots?
No, maybe not groin shot. Like, I mean, I would keep it in the realm of sport, you know.
Right.
But yeah, man, if you want to see who's the best man, let them fight, because you see very often that a fight is interrupted by a round, and the momentum shift like 180 degree completely.
Yes.
And it's not fair. It's a fight. Let them fight.
I agree. But I also think that stand-ups are bullshit. I get mad, and people go, no. Like, fighters get mad at me. They're like, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, the stand-ups are important. Otherwise, people will stall. I go, well, do something about it. Someone's holding you down. They're holding you down. You got to figure out a way to get up. Like, that's a part of the sport. Like baseball, right? Baseball's boring as fuck to me.
But it's a subjective argument. Yeah.
You wait for this one moment where someone hits a ball really far, and it takes so long for those moments. Whereas a fight, if a guy can hold a guy down for 3 minutes, you telling me we can't watch 3 minutes where a guy tries to figure it out? We're so starved for entertainment. Our attention span is so short that we can't allow. That's part of the fight. And everyone knows that if you roll with a wrestler. If you roll with a wrestler, they fucking squash you. And you're like, shit, I got to figure out a way to get out from underneath this guy.
Yeah, but John, Joe, we're in the entertainment business.
Yes, I understand.
Actor, comedian, athletes, singers. It's an entertainment business. People pay to be entertained. We forgot that sometimes.
Yeah, but it's
not about who's the best. Yeah, it's not only about who's the best man. I mean, that's because we're martial artists. That's the purity of our sport. The truth about it for us is to see who's the best man. But for an entertainment standpoint, The money is not there.
Right,
the money
but
is in
isn't
the
the
entertainment.
incentive in the fighter? Like, look, a guy like Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's the greatest lightweight champion of all time. You can't hold him down. You can't do it. No one's held him down.
Yeah.
Like, you say that about him. Like, well, no one's ever fucking held him down. He's never held anybody down. When he holds you down, he's beating the shit out of you. There's a lot of action involved in that guy holding you down. No one's holding John Jones down.
Yeah.
Hold John Jones down. Good luck. Well, it's because they're good enough where that doesn't apply to them. So if someone's getting held down, isn't the issue that the fighter who's on the bottom doesn't have the ability to get back up?
That's right. But most people don't understand that. I understand that completely. I'm on your side 100%. And the proof of that is even when I fought at my title reign, I was blamed to be kind of boring because I was not taking enough risk. But why would I take a risk if I'm winning the fight?
Right.
Why would I take a stupid risk and let an opportunity to my opponent to give me a fatal blow to knock me out? It's up to him to take the risk.
Yeah.
If you're a martial artist, you understand that, you know. But if you're watching a fight to be entertained, you do not understand that. And because we live in an entertained world,
Yeah.
that's what it is, you know. And
That's just people looking for a reason to criticize you because you were so dominant, though. They're trying to find some reason why something you're doing is wrong.
and it's okay. I live with it, you know. But the critics were real. But I always, you know, the good news about it for me is I got, you know, I'm not. I mean, I could be brain damaged, but so far I think I'm good.
You did great. Are you kidding me, man?
Yeah,
as many fights as you had, to be able to talk the way you talk.
Yeah.
Like, we all know fighters that can't.
Yeah, but
we all know boxers in particular that they get to a certain age and it's unbelievable. You listen to them talk, it's so sad.
However, it's not a guarantee that I will not have problems in the future. We cannot. I mean, so far so good. Touch wood, and
Yeah.
I don't think I got any issues. But like I saw many doctors because for me my health is the most important thing, and they say that there is never a doctor that will tell you, oh, it's good that if you go back to fight. It's just that it's always a risk, and the risk sometimes we don't have the technology nowadays sometimes to see if potentially you'll have problems in the future, right?
Well, my hope is that the technology, medical technology, will improve to the point where we can regenerate neurons and help people that have CTE. That's my real hope.
Yes.
Is that and there is some light on the horizon when it comes to that. There's some therapies that are available now that were not available just 5-10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad. I see a lot of guys they hang on to way too long in the sport. I mean, everybody keep fighting for different reasons.
Right.
I fought myself not because I like to fight, for the legacy, because I like to win, I guess, better than I hate to lose. So that's why I came back, you know. But some guys, they keep fighting, and they always ask me and say, what do you think about this guy still fighting, you know? And I'm like, if it were me, I would have retired a long time ago, because you have a prime window.
Yeah.
And when you're past your prime, what's the point? You know, you're hurting your legacy. But if you do it because you love to fight, or you do it because you need the money, that's okay. That's your choice, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's a very, very sad thing. And also another thing, very often I got parents coming with their kids coming to me and telling me, hey, this is the future world champion. You know, which advice would you tell him? And I always tell them the same thing. I disappoint them always, almost all of them.
Don't do it.
No, I said to them, I say, how's school doing? They're like, oh, I don't really like it. I said, stay at school, be good, keep training. It's good for you. You know, it's a good for you, but don't put your eggs in the same basket, kid. You know, like, keep training. And the parent always look at me like this, like, and I'm like, it's not because I made it that I'm gonna try to convince your kid to choose the same path. You know. It's a very hard journey,
especially when you're dealing with a kid.
Oh, man,
you don't know how that kid's going to grow. Like, some kids grow up to be terrible athletes.
That's right.
Through no fault of their own. They're slow. They can't hit hard. They don't get hit well. They have a bad chin. Like there's certain aspects that you can't control when it comes to an athlete.
And Joe, I'm not talking only about MMA. I'm talking about basketball, hockey, baseball. Same thing.
Yes,
It's the same thing. Like
but more consequences with fighting than any of the other ones.
100. Hockey, football, American football, soccer too is bad. I talked to Dr. Kent, who told me a lot of soccer players because they
hit the ball.
Yeah, and it's
crazy
very
getting
sad.
CTE from bouncing the ball off their head. No one would have ever expected that.
Yeah.
That's why there's a real problem with people. They conflate concussions with CTE, but it's not necessarily. It's any kind of impact to the head. You know what my doctor, Dr. Mark Gordon, told me? People get CTE from riding jet skis.
Wow.
Just riding jet skis and bouncing off of waves. He said it rattles your brain inside your head, and people have like cognitive problems, memory problems, really. And it turns out they're experiencing CTE.
Dr. Ken too in Boston told me that if you have any kids, don't ever let him get hit on the head, or if you play soccer, never hit the ball with your head. Football, no contact, because before puberty. He clearly made me understand that the damage is way worse. And see some parents sometimes they grab their kids like this and they shake them. This is like terrible.
Oh.
So it's a very it's a very hard path. And one of the happiest place for me to go and the saddest place to go, it's the gym. When I go train to the gym, it's the happiest place for me to go because I can practice the sport that I love, because I love training. I love the science of fighting. And it's very sad too, because after training, there's always some guys that come to me because they seek some advice. And I always give them advice regarding fighting, but a lot of them, my advice for them would be, hey bro, you should hang up your gloves and find a real job, because
some of them,
I've seen this movie and it's not a good ending, my friend. Like go find. But if I tell them the truth,
they'll get mad at you.
They get mad at me because I'll be like, oh yeah, he's you know what I mean? Like,
right, you're jealous.
Yeah, he's jealous. He's arrogant and stuff. But that's the thing. I tell my real friends that when it's time to hang up the gloves, I tell them the truth. I said, listen, and I said to them, like I said, listen, man, what's good for you now? It's a little bit like in the movie with Bruce Willis, Quentin Tarantino,
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction, if you would have made it, you would have made it before, when he made that speech, it's a little bit the same thing, but it's I love that monologues. It's amazing, but it's the truth. A lot of people should relate to this, but it's unfortunate.
Well, the reason why champions are so exceptional is because it's so hard to become a champion. It's so rare. All the stars have to align. You have to have mental prowess, physical prowess. You have to have great coaching. You have to have so many different factors have to come together, and also fortune. I mean, you're a guy who's been through some surgeries, and we all know guys who they get injured and they can never even train again. It happens. It's unusual, but it can happen. And we're dealing with this giant hurricane of possibilities for someone to whoosh, boom, come out of that and be a Georges St-Pierre or be a Khabib Nurmagomedov or a John Jones or someone who's exceptional. It's so rare. So when someone's kid comes up to you and says, I'm going to be the next world champion, you're like,
the possibility, the odds of failure are so high.
They're so high.
That's the thing. I believe you need to have a certain predisposition.
Yeah.
I met in my life incredible mentors that had a huge influence on me. They taught me like great life lessons, techniques, and it's incredible. Like if I would not have had those guys who influenced me, I would never have been where I am right now. And plus, on top of that, I worked really hard, and I was lucky. Like the star were all aligned, but you need all that.
And you need the great coaching is so important too. There's so many guys that are really talented, but they have meathead coaches, and their coaches train them the wrong way, so they spar full blast in the gym, and then they go out and they lose, and then their coach has them sparring a couple weeks after they get knocked out, and that kind of shit, and they don't have the technical prowess, the technical proficiency to teach a child or a kid or an athlete right. You can get unlucky, I
believe the best way to improve, it's when it's playful. I've seen so many guys, Joe. I can't say names, but it's crazy how many guys I've seen that left their career in the gyms.
Yeah.
Because they spar too hard. Every sparring for them, it's about winning the rounds.
Yeah, it's about life or death.
You cannot improve like this. You need to be playful. Of course, when you're in training camp and your fight is coming up, you need to somehow trying to recreate that environment of discomfort, that stress. But when you're outside of that preparation zone, you need to be playful, and that's when you improve, when it's playful, when it's like a game, because you will be more prone to trying new things, and by trying new things you'll adapt. You'll be like, oh, this one works, this one doesn't work, but the one that works, I keep it in my back pocket, and it makes you grow. That's a problem. I've seen, like, very often I see guys like sparring, they lose a lot of brain cells. It's terrible. It's terrible. And I'm former world champion. Like when I've sparred with guys, very often they're nervous, so they become all stiff. And when they hit so hard. I tell them, I'm like, you don't get ready. You don't have any fight coming up soon. Like, just have fun, but relax. I tell them relax, and they very often they relax. Some will try to make So I have to answer back. I have to, but very often they relax and they're surprised that because it's so much of an egotistic sport, like we have this mentality that, oh, if the guy tell you to relax, it's because he's scared,
Right.
It's so stupid, but that's how, if you want to improve, it needs to be playful and in everything, we say, when I say sparring, when I'm about to spar with someone I never sparred before, that's what I do. I tell him, I say, hey, would you like to play a little bit? I don't use the word sparring, because sparring is like aggression. I tell him, I say, hey, would you like to play a little bit there? Then we touch glove and we play. And I never go hard. I always start very, very slow. And if I see that he's going too hard, I tell him, I say, hey, please go more easy. And of course, if he's getting ready for a fight, it's different. It's a different situations. But that's how it is. And you shouldn't be afraid to tell your training partner, hey, please, like, put it, like, slow down a notch. Like when you see guys trying to throw a head kick to knock each other out. In boxing sparring, it's different because we have big gloves, big headgear. They can go hard. I mean, even if it's not good, because it's repetition with the blows to the head, but in MMA, with the kicks, the damage is basically like a baseball bat hitting your head. You can't do that. It's crazy, man.
The Thais have it right?
That's right. That's right, because they have so many fights. They have so many fights that, and also when you fight someone, when I fight someone, it happened very often in my career. Like when I fight someone, you have a connection with the guy you fight. A lot of things happen here, and real fighter will know that what I'm talking about, the connection that we have, because you look at each other, and this connection, you cannot see it when you watch a fight on TV. But very often, in most of my fight, when I went to decision, I could see the guy breaking, folding. Like, he's letting me know that he doesn't fight to win anymore. He's fighting to not lose. And like I said earlier, it's not up to me trying to push the pace, trying to finish him and increasing my risk of getting cut by a counter punch and getting knocked out. It's up to him to take the risk, because he's losing the fight. And the idea in this game, you want to save yourself for another day. I mean, it's sad to say for the fan, but this is the truth. If you win, and that's what you're doing is good, you win, you're winning the fight, you're going to get paid the same amount of money. Of course, if you have an highlight reel, something like that, it could increase your pay. But in terms of your career, I believe you should see your career as a marathon, not as a sprint. So you kind of save yourself. And a lot of time I've fought guys, I could see in their face that, oh, he doesn't want to be there anymore. Like, I know I'm winning the fight before even the fight is over. They get desperate. Of course, they're going to throw a haymaker or something, but I know they're not going to take any risk because they're hurt. They lost already. They know that I'm better than them. And that's when I know I get the fight. And I know that I'm just need to be on cruise control. I can win if they don't. Like, it's hard to finish someone who doesn't fight to win anymore.
Right.
You see very often champions in MMA have a very dominant career in the beginning. You know, they finish a lot of their opponent, but after a while it kind of peak because the entire UFC roster is studying you and they figure you out. Maybe they didn't figure you out how to beat you, but they figure out how to kind of survive and hang in there with you.
John Jones is a good example of that, right?
Everybody, myself, same thing. Like a lot of guys, Anderson Silva, all the champions. That's what happened.
Everyone's studying you.
Yes, it's hard to become champion. That's why I told Francis and Gano, I say, man, it's hard to become champion now. Now the entire roster.
He's a different animal.
But
it's so hard.
Oh man, he's a scary human being. It's unbelievable.
Pull the microphone up in front of your face a little bit more there. Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah, he's the scariest. Isn't he the scariest heavyweight of all time?
Yeah, man, I think so.
No one's scarier. Natural 265 pounds and knocks everyone out.
It's true. There's guys that were very scary in the beginning, but then after, when they got some other guys figure out how to beat them, they're like, okay, they're not so scary
But
anymore.
even guys that are really scary, like Anderson Silva, it's usually multiple punches that he would knock you out with.
Yes.
With Francis, you can't make any mistakes. Every punch is a hydrogen bomb.
You don't need to be a champion to be a scary fighter. Just think about like Melvin Manoev, for example.
Yes,
like he was an incredible scary
Good
fighter.
example. Right.
Because he can knock everybody out, but he can get beat by everybody.
Rumble Johnson.
That's right.
Rumble Johnson, another example.
Scary guy, yeah.
One of the scariest of all time.
That's right. That's
You know,
right.
knocked out Glover Teixeira with one punch. Remember that?
To me, Khabib is one of the scariest too.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's beating you down. He's not only beating you down, he's breaking you mentally. And for me, that is worse than anything. For me, he's the scariest one, pound for pound. Khabib.
Is he the guy that you would come back for?
I would have. Like,
you would have.
Nah, it's all over now.
You're done? That's it?
I'm done. It's three years ago. I took my...
Hey, GSP, it's Dana White.
No,
listen, I got to fight for you.
Now, I'm going to explain to you. If he wants me to fight, he needs to do it like that. That's how he needs to do it. He needs to hide himself, wait that I'm in a gym training. Like, for example, when I was in LA with Freddie Roach, hitting the pads and getting back, because I haven't done this. It's because COVID, everything is closed in Montreal.
Right.
But I went back, and now I found my mechanic back, man. And when you train in mixed martial art and combat sport, you become a different person, you know. And and Freddie look at me like, he's like, George, you get the hitch back. I'm like, stop saying that. And if Dana White would walk in right now in the gym in between round, I would sign the contract in a blink of an eye.
Ooh.
But then after, I go back home, go back in Montreal in my comfort, and I'm like,
There
hell no.
There you are, working with Freddie.
Yeah, and people are like, hey, are you practicing left-handed? I always been both
Switch
side
hitter, yeah. I like how Freddie has a fucking... He's got a mask on his chin. What's that protecting, Freddie? Take that stupid goddamn thing off.
And you know, I'm left-handed because I always been left-handed. And it was a card a secret card that I kept in my arsenal that if I would have need to use it.
You switch.
Yes, I was going to switch perhaps with Bisping in the fourth round or in the fifth.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So you're more comfortable left-handed?
No.
You're more comfortable in the southpaw?
No, I would say I've started more comfortable as a regular stand, but because I do karate, I always if you ask my coaches, everybody knows, but I always fight one side because I believe it's a secret card that you can pull off and surprise everybody. But you don't show your hand when you play card. You only show what you need to show to win the fight.
Well, you see that with Wonder Boy. Like Wonder Boy, he's right-handed, but he fights, in my opinion, at his best when he's right leg forward because he throws front leg kicks.
Yes.
Like that's one of the things he does. Like he'll switch back and forth fluidly. Don't get me wrong. He can fight well from both stances.
Yes.
But when he's right leg forward, you see a lot of those front leg kicks. And that's some of the most difficult shit to get through with that guy. Right?
Yeah. There's guys that has a lot of problems fighting a southpaw.
Yes.
There's guys like
It switches everything.
Yes,
It's
it changed
confusing.
everything.
Yeah.
So that's why it was for me a secret card that I kept in case I would need it. But unfortunately for me, like Bisping was very good with southpaws as well. He knocked out like Luke Rockhold. So perhaps it's one of these things that I should have used earlier in my career, unfortunately, and I did not.
Unfortunately, you're one of the greatest of all time. How about relax?
And I'm very critic about myself, Joe, and but
Well, you've added
it always can be better, right?
But that's always one of the reasons why champions are champions, is that they are self-critical. That's what makes, if you just think everything you do is amazing and you don't have any room for improvement, I think some of the reason why champions become champions is this terrible discomfort of like analyzing themselves and like not liking certain aspects of what they're doing, finding flaws in their technique, or watching a tape. I shouldn't have got hit with that. Why is that? Like, you get crazy and angry, and then you train harder. The people that are self-satisfied, they're like really easily satisfied with their work. They never reach the level of champion because they don't feel that horrible discomfort when you're looking at yourself and you don't like what you see.
Yeah, and my friend C.T. Fletcher says that.
Shout out to CT. I love that
man,
dude.
He's the man.
Iron Addicts for life.
Big inspiration for me.
I love
CT.
him.
And he says to me, the day that you're satisfied, choose to do something else.
Yeah.
Because, and it's a little bit what happened to me in fighting. I made peace with it. I wanted to come back for Khabib because it was... So, for a fighter, the scariest thing sometimes is the most exciting thing to do. And it's a problem that never been solved before. But to come back for another guy and fight for another title, if I win, it's going to be another one after, and another one, and another one. And I'm going to turn 40 years old. And I hate to admit it, Joe, and I refuse to accept it, but man, sometimes I think my best years might be behind me.
Well,
man.
listen, you're retired.
I just said
it. It's okay.
No, it's not okay. I'm not done. No.
But are you done? Well, Dana, you're hearing him right now.
No.
No. Let's make it happen. But Khabib is done as well, and Khabib is what is he? 32. I think Khabib is 32 or 33.
That's right.
So he's in his athletic prime. How old is Khabib? Find out how old Khabib is. I believe he's either 32 or 33.
Yeah, but it's different for everybody. Some people reach their prime at 25, some people at 22, some people at 35. Well, look at Blahovic. He's incredible.
Yes, I know. 38 years old, and he's dominating the light heavyweight division. I think for Khabib, it was also a promise that he made to his mother. And I think that's where it lies. When his father died, he told his mother this is going to be the last fight, and then he fought Justin Gaethje, and they said that's it.
And I understand why, because fighting takes a lot out of you and takes a lot out of the people who loves you.
Yeah.
Because you play basketball, you play baseball, you don't play fighting. And the outcome of a failure, could be very, very bad. You know what I mean? It's not like you lose a game of basketball or something like that.
Right.
You lose a fight, it can have huge repercussion on your health, your well-being, but also your income and your family and everything.
Sure, like Stipe's loss to Ngannou. When you watch that loss, that's a horrible price that he paid. When he got knocked out, and you see him out cold, and Francis hits him with that hammer fist after he KO'd him with the left hook. That's a horrible place to be. And if that's your child, you think of Khabib's mother looking at him, and if that's your child, that's a terrible thing to watch.
That's right. But I think psychologically for a fighter, it's hard to come back from a knockout. But it's probably harder to come back from a fight where you've been dominated and broken for 5 rounds, like where you clearly know that you did not belong there with the,
right.
For example, like Khabib's, that's his style. That's why I'm saying he's the scariest guy.
Right.
He can knock you out, submit you, but if he wins the fight, it's very less likely that it's gonna be on a punch that clips you. It can happen, but it's gonna be on a very dominant performance.
He's gonna maul you.
Exactly.
Yeah. My favorite fight of his, I think, is Edson Barboza fight, because there's a moment in and Barboza at the time was so scary. He has, in my opinion, the fastest switch kick I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anybody throw that left front lead kick as fast as Barboza. So it's just like It's so fast. It's incredible.
Like a slingshot.
Yeah,
Ow!
his kicking is some of the best I've ever seen in all of my life. But Khabib just got a hold of him and mauled him. And there's a moment in the first round where you see Barboza looking up. He's like, he's just getting smothered on the ground.
He knows
smashed.
he's done. Yeah.
He knows he can't fuck with this guy. He can't keep him off of him. And that kind of, when you know you're always going to be second place, you're never going to beat the champion.
Yeah.
And then you have to continue fighting. Like there's that moment where you see a fighter who was a promising prospect early in his career, and then somewhere along the line he accepts the fact that he's a journeyman, and then you see his body change.
Yeah.
He starts looking like a little softer.
His will change as well.
He doesn't train as hard. He fights, he fights to put up a good fight, but he doesn't fight to be the best in the world. And I always tell guys, if you're not trying to be the best in the world, you should probably get out.
Yeah.
You can enjoy it. Like, don't listen to me. Do whatever you like. If you enjoy just competing, if you're happy being someone who just competes and you're just trying to do your best every time, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
But in my opinion, if you started out to be the best in the world and then somewhere along the line you changed and you don't want to be the best in the world anymore, you just want to compete, just get out.
Yes.
Just get out.
Because we all seen the end of that movie. And
We all see the end of that movie.
It's a bad ending. People only see the one who made it. The Conor McGregor, the one that makes the big bucks. But it's a very sad movie. It's a very sad truth to in the world of fighting. You go to the Hall of Fame of boxing. Sometimes you see things like you're like, wow, it's unbelievable. Like you wish you didn't see. You know what I mean? It's very sad. And you need to compete only when you're in. I believe if you want to maintain your well-being and your health, do it for yourself, but do it also for your family. If you don't do it for yourself, compete while you're in that window.
Yeah.
Like after get your chip, get out of here.
I think it's really great that you still enjoy martial arts even after you're done fighting. Like you still love to train and improve. Like we were talking about how the fact that you just trained with Freddie Roach, and before this, we were talking about how you're going to go to Puerto Rico and train with the Danaher Death Squad. Like you're going to go down and train with those guys. You're literally going to go to a fucking island to go do jiu-jitsu.
I like the confidence that martial arts give me because I started when I was very young, and it saved my life, because I started when I was bullied in school, and it became an habit. And if I don't do it, I'm not happy and I don't feel confident. I remember when I was a kid, I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I didn't like myself. I didn't like what I saw in myself because I wanted to change my environment. And martial art taught me that if you want to change your environment, you want to change yourself, you need to love yourself first. And I learned how to love myself. I didn't love right away in the beginning who I was, but I love who I could become. And I wanted to become that person that I visualize, the idea Georges St-Pierre that I could become. That's when I start training. And that's when I start looking at people in the eyes instead of looking down. And when I shake someone's hand, I firm grip. And when the teacher was asking a question before, I was always like this, always the last to answer. Now I was taking charge. Hey, I know the answer, 5 plus 5, it's 10, for example. Yeah, I exteriorized myself. I got out of my comfort zone. And it started building up my confidence. And, like in life, the bully, it's like a predatory animal. It will never hunt the strong alpha male. It will go for the weak. And it's the same thing. So I wish I could tell you I got out of my bullying because I kick all their ass because I've learned karate. But that's not how it happened. It happened because I gained confidence. And by gaining confidence, I became someone different. I became a different person. And that's why I like to go to Puerto Rico to train. Because if I don't have martial art, if I walk to a place, perhaps it's the remnants of what happened in the past for me, I will not feel confidence. Maybe it left a scar in my mind. I'm not a psychologist, but perhaps that's what a psychologist will tell me. Because it left a big scar in
But I think that scar is a gift.
It could be.
I think it is with you. because I think that scar forces you to continue to grow and learn. And even though your competitive career as a professional and as a champion may or may not be done, depending on whether or not Dana White shows up with a check.
He needs shows up with a good check and at the right time. So the money and the timing, Dana, very important.
Very important. Show up at Wildcard Gym while you see him in the Southpaw stance. But even if that doesn't happen, what's important is that gift makes you constantly look to improve yourself. And because you know the benefits of that. They even though, like, you would think, like, people listening to this going, wait. Georges St-Pierre has a confidence thing? Like, you're the fucking one of the greatest of all time. If you have, like, a list of, like, the Mount Rushmore of great martial artists, you're on that Mount Rushmore, man. Yeah. But still, you're honest. And you're honest about your feelings on these things. And I think it's a very important thing for people to hear, because there's a real great benefit for anybody in challenging yourself. It's a great benefit. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a world champion. It doesn't, like, as a martial artist, comparing yourself to who you used to be is what's important. Who were you last week and who are you now? Are you growing? Are you getting better? Are you learning new skills? Because if you're not, you're doing it wrong. You're supposed to be challenging yourself.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest benefit for me. You know, like, and it helped me love myself. You know what I mean? I like to be fit. I like to be in good health, and that's what martial art taught me. And it's something that changed my life. You know, that's one of the benefits. Of course, if you look at competition in mixed martial art, you know, sometimes it has a very violent ending. But what it can brings to an individual, it's so much, you know, it's so much more positive than the what you see sometime on TV. And
I think it would benefit the bullies too. I've always said, like, people say, like, what's the best way to stop bullying? Well, teach everybody how to fight, because a lot of the reasons why the bullies do it, because they're looking for some sort of external validation. They're looking to dominate people to make themselves feel better. But if they could just learn martial arts, the people that we know that are good at martial arts are some of the nicest people in the world. Yeah. Like jiu-jitsu people in particular. They're so nice. Most people that I know that are just fucking stone cold killers, they're so friendly. They're so nice.
You know, I grew up in Canada, and I feel very lucky to grow up in Canada. But it's not sometimes because you grew up in a nice place that nice things happen. You know what I mean? Everybody can face different adversity. And I think it's important to love yourself, to accept yourself as a person, in order to change your surrounding. And it's very important in life and in everything. You know, like if you wanna do good, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and accept who you are and try to be who you want to become.
Yes.
You said it once. I believe you said, you know, we talk about loving yourself. Sometimes you love yourself a lot. Sometimes you don't, right? Because we all do things that we regret. Sometimes nobody's perfect. Sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, man, I just did something very stupid. I don't really love myself. Sometimes I love myself a lot. But you said it, like, you're not the person who you were in the past. You're the person who you are now. And I remember I've learned that from you. And it was a great quote that inspired me. And it's the truth. Because we all learn. You know, sometimes we talk about someone, oh, I don't want it, but that person is not the same that you met in the past. He perhaps is different. Perhaps he's better, or maybe he's worse.
Maybe he's worse.
That's right.
Yeah, you have to internalize that you, just because you've made mistakes, you are not the person who you were when you were at your lowest mistake. You have to realize those mistakes, although they're very painful, they're very valuable, because they teach you how you want to never be again. If you don't experience yourself at a low point, you don't know how bad it is. Like, you have to experience those bad moments to know, like, oh, I'm capable of complete, total failure.
That's right.
Like, now I have to like never allow myself to get to that place again. And for many fighters, there's fighters where they quit in a fight and then they always quit. But some fighters quit and they're like, I'll never fucking quit again. Yeah. and they grow stronger because of that. So sometimes people say, well, once a quitter, always a quitter. I say bullshit.
That's right.
Because some guys have quit, and because of that, they're more dangerous than ever because they had to go home and live with themselves because of that quitting, and they fucking hate it. So they train harder than ever, and they're terrified of that weakness. So they're a horrifying fighter to face because they've faced the worst possible feeling you can feel. Sometimes the worst feeling you can face as a fighter is not loss, but failing yourself, knowing that you could have done more, but quitting.
Joe, I'm happy I'm in Vegas because last time you talk about quitting. Last time I came in Vegas, not in Vegas, I mean in Houston. Last time I came in Houston, I had a very bad memory of Houston.
Matt Serra.
That's when I got knocked out by Matt Serra.
What? Tell me about that fight.
Houston was a nightmare for me, and now I have a chance to redeem myself, and I really loved Houston. Like Houston people are like everybody been so nice to me. The food is fantastic.
Yeah.
But when I fought Matt Serra, you talk about quitting, I was blamed because everybody saw me at the time like the best new thing. And I was fighting a guy that the odds were incredibly on my favor. I don't remember. I think it was 11-1. And when I lost, I got punched by a looping punch that I never saw coming. And I got dizzy. And I made the mistake to trying to get back into the fight right away. And boom, 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 I end up on my back. And I knew that it was finished for me because I didn't know where I was. So I turned on the side and I tap on strike. And then a lot of people say, oh, he tapped on strike. He's a quitter. But people, sometimes they should understand, they should know when they're done. Why would I take unnecessary damage and be unconscious? I was able to save myself perhaps for another day. And those extra punches that perhaps I would have taken and knocked me out cold would have made it in a way that I would have perhaps, because the brain damage, never have to be able to come back and have the greatest run that I had after.
Yeah.
So when you say you quit, it's true. It's not because you quit that it doesn't make you better. You know, like some people say he's a quitter, but you quit perhaps to save yourself. Maybe there's a reason. But the experience that I went through, it was the most humiliating moment of my career. I wouldn't say to my life because I had worse thing in the past, but in my career it was no doubt the most humiliating moment, and it was a nightmare for me. It became an obsession. It was always in the back of my head, and I never wanted this thing to ever happen again. And then I remember during the fight of Carlos Condit, I got kicked in the head and I got dropped on my butt like this. And that scenarios that happened with Matt Serra is playing in my mind. Sometimes in the fight, the time stops. And it's like in Rocky, you know, like you see it goes slow motion and you have time to think about stuff that seems to take more times. So I'm in my butt and I see Carlos Condit coming to me and I'm like, I've seen this before. And I know now that if I try to stand up right away to get back in the fight because of my ego, to show him that I'm not hurt and show the people that I'm not hurt, I might get knocked out. So I step on my ego, I lean back, I use the guard, the shield to parry the punches, and I'm able to survive it because now I know that it's the loss of Matt Serra and the experience that I gained from it that made me survive that kick to the head that Carlos Condit gave me.
Isn't that interesting how that bad moment was so valuable? That kind of experience is so valuable.
There's very often in life negative experience that you don't understand at the time because you go through a depressive moment. But later on in your life, you'll be like, man, that things helped me. Like when I was bullied in school, I was always complaining about myself, and you know, it was a very negative experience for me. But now I know that it helped me to deal with the mental warfare that I have to deal in my career in mixed martial art.
Yeah.
Because in mixed martial art, it's a lot of mind games, you know, and I was able to put a shield on myself because of the experience I had in bullying. You could say whatever you want to me. It would never affect me. And of course, the UFC, Dana White, the way they promote the fight, they would say, "Oh, I never seen Georges St-Pierre like this. He's mad. He's mad." Like, but that was bullshit.
That was just promote a fight.
Exactly, because the fight are promoted on emotions, but the fight are not one on emotions, or one on mundane things that you do every day.
But there are moments in your career that I remember you being very angry. One of them was the BJ Penn fight, where if you almost stopped BJ Penn, the round ended, and you jumped up and punched you punched the cage.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
You were still mad.
You need to canalize your emotion when you fight. You need to be stoic, no emotion. But there's times that it's time to use your emotion, but to use it to propel you. To use it to motivate you to be able, for example, to finish the round with more energy. Even though you're physically exhausted, you use those emotions to push yourself. But the emotion is a little bit like fire. It can help you cook your food, but it can burn you. It's like like fear.
Yes,
Customato said, if you have a huge ego, like I have an incredible ego. I'm very, very proud. I'm a very proud person, which helped me be a better fighter, but also it's an issue sometime in life. If I use my emotion when I get hit, like I did for Matsero, because I wanted to give it back to him right away. I didn't like to be stunned. I never been stunned in my life, never. It was the first time that I got stunned, and for me it was humiliate me. So I wanted to give it back right away so we can shut everybody's mouth and, that can say, you see, it was just a little mistake and that's it. But if you use it for that particular thing, it could be a big mistake. You need to canalize it, and knowing when it's time to use your emotion. You keep it inside of you, and when it's time, you let it explode.
Isn't that interesting where some fights that people love are really not the way you're supposed to fight? Like a great example is Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward.
Oh, God.
Everybody loves those fights, including me. Those fights
Absolutely, I loved it.
Those fights are amazing. But if that was one of my fighters, I'd be like, stop. And then Arturo Gatti in the third fight, I think it was the third fight where he outboxed him.
Yes.
He fought smart.
Yes.
He stayed on his toes. He moved around. He popped the jab. He did a lot of footwork and head movement, and
Yes.
he didn't brawl, and he won the fight by decision.
One of my favorite boxer of all time, the great Sugar Ray Leonard, did that mistake with Roberto Duran.
Yes.
He stood with him because he wanted to show him that he was a man. But then after he danced, and the second fight, he clearly beat him up. No mask,
Yeah, but Duran was fat for that fight. They took advantage of Duran. They knew Duran was partying, so they got him a fight on short notice, and he had to lose a lot of weight, and he had all these cramps, and he fucked up. Roberto Duran fucked up. That's what it was. I mean, he got fat, and he was way out of shape. There's a lot of variables, but in the first fight, clearly, Sugar Ray Leonard, he fought very well, but Duran won that decision. It was just the worst way to fight Duran.
Exactly. You can't. I mean, it's good to be tough, like it's something that when fights are very close can help you to have an edge.
Yeah, but don't be tough for no reason.
Yeah, you shouldn't rely on it.
Right.
And especially in a fight, but especially in training, you should not rely on it. We talk about guys like leaving their career in the gym, like toughness is not a good thing in the gym.
Yeah, you're so right. And it's so hard for people to separate themselves and just say, no, I'm here to work and to improve. The problem is you get tagged. You're like, oh, you motherfucker. And then next thing you know, you're in a war in the gym. And you can only have so many of those. If you have a punch card, and this is your life, you have a certain amount of shots you can take where you get really rocked. You only have a certain amount. And if you want to give up all those in the gym, and we've all seen guys like that where they, a great example is when Travis Lutter fought Marvin Eastman. Did you ever see that fight?
Yeah.
He just connected with one punch, and it was like on the end of the punch. It didn't seem like the biggest punch, and Marvin Eastman went out cold. And it turned out that Marvin Eastman had been KO'd, I believe, twice in the gym leading up to that fight. And it's happened multiple times where you see guys get hit, and they go unconscious, and you're like, why'd that guy go out so easy? And you go, oh, he got knocked out in the gym before the fight.
Yeah, it's I think what you don't see, that's what knocks you out most of the time. We talk about power, but precision and timing, but it's also with what I'm baiting you. I'm
Yes.
baiting you to look here, then boom, I come on the other side, because while you're watching this, you're blind on the other side. And when you get hit
Yes.
a lot, you have blind spot that accumulate in your vision. And now we get into some of what I call secret weapon stuff, you know, like you know, some people have secret weapons, secret knowledge. Knowledge is a weapon. I had a guy when I was training, when I was champion, during my welterweight run. I had a guy in Montreal that was measuring frames. Nobody knows that. He was watching fight, and he was making a frame with image. So when someone threw a punch, click, 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 click. And by doing that, he was able to know who has better reaction times than others. So if you watch my first fight with BJ Penn, I had a horrible first round. And that fight was very competitive, you know, all the way to the end, you know, like very, very tight fight. I went into that fight without that knowledge. And normally when I was competing, I used to always be the fastest guy. When I fought BJ Penn, he was so freaking fast. He was in his prime. And I remember, normally when I go first, I always touch the target. But BJ Penn, I couldn't touch him. He was so fast. My jab didn't work because he was always like avoiding it and coming back with a counter punch or you know, counter jab. And he messed me up real fast. So I had to the second and third round, I had to change my strategy to wrestle him. I won the fight by an inch. After I met that guy, that he's not a scientist, he's a guy that does that for fun. And he showed me what he did. And I thought it was just incredible. It was like a secret weapon, secret knowledge that nobody knows. He told me BJ Penn has the fastest reaction time of all the UFC roster that he couldn't measure. And the way he did it is when you throw a punch or a kick, how much frame it takes him to react to that body stimuli. And I know that BJ Penn had the fastest reaction time. Lyoto Machida, by the way, was second place.
Really?
Yes. But this over time can change because your brain can punch, and you know, so things change.
Body
like that.
slow down.
Yes, I'm talking about prime BJ Penn. I knew BJ Penn had the best reaction time, but I knew also he had a poor reset time. And poor reset time is, the guy told me that when I fought BJ Penn the second time, I knew that if I come into the fight, I couldn't go first because he was too fast. What I did is, because the nervous system is like a muscle, if you do a lot of reps, you get tired fast. You might be like a sprinter at a very good start, but you will get tired fast. So when I fought BJ Penn the first fight, when I tell you that when you fight someone, there's like a relation that happen up here that nobody sees around. When I fight BJ Penn, I was faking a lot, showing him all these creativity, all these.
In the second fight.
Yes, because I wanted to load up his nervous system to make him tired, because I knew he had a quick reaction time, so he was flinching a lot. I was making him flinch and react. He was getting stiff and flinching because I want to get it out of his system. So when he got tired and his nervous system is tired, now I could attack. That's why my second fight, I had much more success against him than in my first fight.
Is this something that Firas and you devised? Because I know Firas talks about that a lot, about overriding someone's, like overwhelming their system.
Yes.
With complications, with possibilities.
What you want to do is you want to load up his nervous system by showing him different threat, kick, punch, fake it, anything you want to do that stimulate him. If you stay in front of him and you don't move, that will not make him flinch, nothing like this. So you need to make him flinch, even if it's not real, but you need to make him react. And if you make him react, he will flinch and get tired. His nervous system will get tired, and his reaction time will slow down. That's why I was able to get him. And that's why I was able to figure out a lot of guys that I was fighting, because we had that information that nobody has. A lot of people have different tricks. It's like a war. You want to, like the American had the atomic bomb. Like in fighting, we have that knowledge.
So watching, studying film, and breaking down the amount of
Yes.
frames.
Yes, that's
Interesting.
how we did it. That's one of the secret weapon I had, and now I'm sure some other guys use it as well.
Well, you had different approaches to different fighters too. It's really interesting if you look at your career. Like you had a different approach to Thiago Alves, then you did to Josh Koscheck, then you did to John Fitch. Like every fight, you came in with like a different strategy and a different approach.
Yes, and I knew also with that guy that certain people have different blind spot. For example, if you look at Chuck Liddell, he got cut very often with the same punch, that same looping punch. My weakness for me, personally, I'm telling you, it was the things that comes from under. Because I was the stance I was always in, more like a karate stance, lower stance, wider. My stance was wider, ready for a takedown, because I was kind of looking up a little bit, and if you look up, the thing that comes from under, you don't see it as well. If you fight tall, you look down, the thing that comes from the top, you see it as well. So Chuck Liddell was more upright, things that come from the top, and that you can study this. It's a blind spot, and it's important to know. It's very important to know, and I'm aware of it. When I decided to make the comeback against Bisping, first it was Luke Rockhold that was the champion. So I was, nobody knew at the time, but we were thinking about the comeback. When John brought me that idea, we were thinking about how could we fight. It was Luke Rockhold at the time. And before Luke Rockhold, I would never have made it because it was Chris Weidman. And Chris Weidman is a teammate, is part of the same team. I would never go up and challenge a guy from the same team. But when it was Luke Rockhold, I was, looking at it, and we were starting to, because I always like to be ahead of the curve. So I was trying to think about these kinds of stuff and study him. But then Bisping messed up all the plan, and I had to re-switch and learn about Bisping, So it was an interesting time. But these are, when you talk about like secret weapons that fighters have, secret knowledge, these are one of the things, and you don't talk about those things when you're an active fighter,
right?
Because you keep it for yourself. And now there's a lot of stuff that now I see a lot of other guys are doing it, but back in the day, not much people did it. Like test with the eyes, it helps for blind spot. You had a doctor in Montreal that does that. Like beep, 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 like the beep test.
Reactions to...
Yeah, I believe, there's no scientific proof, but I do believe it increases your reaction times and it can help with blind spot.
A lot of people do things where they touch those lights.
Yes.
Like they have those light things and they do this just to try to increase reaction times.
In Montreal, when I get ready for a fight, I had the same thing with lights. I see, and I have symbols. Different symbols is different feet. Sometimes it's one feet, left feet. Sometimes it's right. So because the feet, it takes more time for my nervous system to get the information and move my feet. So that's why the doctor told me he did it with the feet. However, I don't know if it clearly makes a difference because fighting is very specific. But what I can tell you for sure, and this is from my experiences, if I do that kind of training, because I've done the mistake before, if I do that nervous system training and then I'm doing to do a gymnastic, my next training is horrible. I have the worst training. So it burns your nervous system, and it's really true. That this I can guarantee you from my experience that is the truth. So I would never do that and go spar, even though it's not a physically demanding, but it's very taxing on the nervous system.
Same way you overwhelm BJ Penn with the feints.
Exactly. So it's like my nervous system is so tired that when I try to do a half tuck flip, I couldn't even do it. I was all messed up. And I remember I almost hurt myself one time because of it. I did this training, and like 2 hours after I went to do gymnastics, I almost hurt myself. Wow. And my gymnastic coach told me, I remember I said, "What's wrong, George?" I said, I don't know, man. I think I've done my we call it apex. I did that. I did the apex training, for the nervous system and blind spot and reaction time. I think I messed up, so I changed my training for something more slow, But man, I was really messed up. So that's why it's a real thing. It's not fugazi. See, if you fake the guy, you make him flinch, you make him react, you stimulate his nervous system with all kinds of different threat, he will get tired, and that will work. Yes,
that makes sense.
It's a thing.
Yeah,
young fighters, pay attention to this. This is the future, guys.
Can you increase your endurance in that?
Yes.
As you do it over time, you can do it more easily, more efficiently?
So once again, you need to talk to a neurologist, a doctor that specialize in it, but they believe that you can increase it. And I believe personally that the best fighter in the world are the one that have the best nervous system. It's not about muscle. It's about, look, guys, some of the guys, they don't look like Greek gods, statue, but they do very well because I believe their nervous system, they got good timing, good reaction times. That's a real thing.
I think it is a real thing, and I think it makes sense that you could get better endurance at that, just like you can get better at doing anything, whether
Absolutely.
It's running or hitting the bag or sparring or jiu-jitsu. Like, it makes sense that if you just did those reaction time drills over and over again, it would increase your reaction time.
However, I believe fighting is very specific. Doing this exercise with the dot, it might help your nervous system to be good at this game. However, if you want to be good for fighters, I think it can cross over a little bit, but it's like a little bit saying that doing bench press will make me punch harder. I do not think so.
There's certain fighters, like, what did you think about like Max Holloway? For, in my opinion, one of his finest performances was against Calvin Kattar, and he didn't spar at all. And another one is, Cedric Doumbé. Cedric Doumbé, who fights for Glory, who, in my opinion, is one of the greatest.
French guy,
amazing. He's one of the greatest kickboxers alive. He's my favorite guy to watch in Glory. He's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
All his training is physical training. All his training is hitting the bag, sparring, hitting mitts, doing sprints on. Like, I saw him work out. He came to did my podcast, and then I had my gym in my old in Los Angeles. I had a full gym, so I had a treadmill, heavy bag, the whole deal. And so I got to watch them run through a typical training, and everything is sprint recovery. So he would get on, I had an air runner, where those are, the treadmill where it's self-propelled.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to move it yourself. So it's more difficult than a regular treadmill. So he's just, he's like, time. And then he's like, got 15 seconds. They put the gloves on him. And he's like, ready, go. He goes over to the back. So he has unbelievable resources in terms of his ability to sprint, recover. So that's all his training. His training is all that. All of his hitting pads. He told me he doesn't even have a fucking kickboxing coach anymore.
He does not spar?
No.
He's
super talented.
Yes,
too,
I know he is. I know he is. I really enjoy watching fight.
And playful as well.
Yes.
I think that's part of what makes him so good too. Is like he's got a playful confidence to him.
I think he sparred before many times.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
So the experience, it's a little bit like Jean-Charles Skarbowski, one of my coaches, told me it's like a bicycle. In the beginning, when you start, you have to push hard, and then after, it's very easy. You just need chook. I think that's how it is in combat sport.
Where Skarbowski used to show up drunk, right? He showed up drunk to your place of The Ultimate Fighter when you had him coach people. It's one of my favorite clips on The Ultimate Fighter.
That's right.
He shows up with a drink, partying all night. Shows up to train. He's fucking hammered. And he gets in there, is tripping people, dumping them, kicking their ass.
That's right, because he's very efficient. That's why I believe if you're efficient, you need just you don't need to turn it on so much. You don't need to spar as much.
Right.
And one thing I do a lot personally, I do not spar as much as people think. I do a lot of reaction drills. Like, let's say you throw me a jab, I will practice, like the parry, come back with the hook, pa pa. So I learn how to read your body signature, and I do it. The more you do it with different people, the better you are at learning the body signature. That's why I had great takedowns. People think it's my wrestling that give me those takedowns. It's karate. And the drills that I do, the drills that I repeat.
Blitz.
And yes, yeah, the blitz. And also the fact that not necessarily in sparring, I drill a lot with people. Like I have two kinds of takedown that I really enjoy that I believe are very efficient and economical. The reactive takedown and the proactive takedown. Proactive is when I myself instigate the takedown. I will throw something to distract my opponent, perhaps a jab, because I like it. It's one of my longest weapon against his nearest point, like Bruce Lee says, you know. Like normally it would be the thigh kick, but I use my jab for this. I jab his hand, and then I go because it's a distraction. This is the proactive takedown. The reactive takedown, it's when I bait him to throw punches and come forward to me. I bait him like I'm scared, you know, like I'm fighting him and I'm playing like I'm scared. It's a relation that I have with the other guy. It's not only physical. I'm trying to make you believe that, like I'm scared. I'm here, so I want you to go and try to knock me out. Then, boom, I put you down. These are very important when you fight. You need to do these things. So I don't think when you have the experience, sparring is very important, because sparring is very different than the timing that you will face in the fight. However, I'm still saying that sparring is the most similar thing that you will have to face when you compete in mixed martial arts. You know what I mean? But it's still very different. And I think also that when you are in great shape, the thing is, if you're in great shape for a fight, you know, you will have better creativity. Because when you get tired,
Yes.
it's like a horse, you know, who has like a mask like this. Your creativity diminish.
Yes.
And you always go back to what you do best. It's like you forgot all the other things. And we talk about like performance enhancing drugs, and sometimes they say, oh, it's not the punch that knock you out. That's the favorite excuses of people who are cheating. But if you would not have used these things, you wouldn't have the physical abilities that you have, and perhaps you would have been shrink like this, and you wouldn't have that
Yes.
creativity. So that's why, that's what I'm saying. And creativity is very important for a fighter, and sometimes creativity is linked directly with physical condition.
Fatigue, yeah.
Yes.
Yes. That's what I found so interesting about Cedric Doumbé is being there and watching him train at my gym. I was like, oh, it was very enlightening, because I've seen him fight before, and he's fucking gas tank's incredible. And he sees guys wither. They start to wither, and then he comes on and he knocks them out. But it's because he can keep up a pace they can't keep up.
Yes.
Because his training is fucking ruthless, man.
Yeah, he's
it's
a
all
beast.
sprinting. It's all bah, 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 bah. He's on the treadmill. Ah, get to the back. 15, 13, 14, go. And he's like, bang, 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 bang.
Yes.
So his body is conditioned to have a much higher threshold for endurance than the average fighter who's just doing normal mitt work, normal bag work, normal road work.
Yes.
Everything he's doing is like sprint, recover. And he has a really good physical trainer that came with him to the podcast. And the guy waited, and then afterwards they did their workout together, and I got a chance to watch him. I was like, oh.
Nice.
And you see how successful he is in glory. He's
Yeah.
fucking amazing.
Yeah, but I'm sure he put on the work.
Yes.
Like into spar. He did his time in sparring. So
100%.
he's perhaps like,
Yes.
if I make the analogy, like on a bicycle, but he climbed the hill already. Now he just like maintaining by doing physical exercise.
The same as Max Holloway. Like Max Holloway said that. He goes, look, I already know how to fight. I know how to do that. I've already done that. And if you look at Max Holloway's fights and all of his time in the gym and then his kickboxing fights before he ever fought in MMA, he's got all this striking and all this timing already down. So for him, it's like, why take the big hits? Like, he understands it now. It's mostly reaction drills and endurance. And Max is another one. Tremendous endurance. And also, tremendous ability to take a punch. Like, so one of the most underrated things about Max that people forget, he's never even been knocked down. And he's been in wars. He has a tremendous chin. And I think part of that chin, particularly in the fights, the most recent fights, is the fact that he's not taking any damage in training.
Yeah, Tony Ferguson is another one. I saw him in wildcard. He says, hey, he doesn't spar apparently, and he's an amazing fighter. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Also, another thing, we talk about brain damage. It's also the volume. a lot of guys, I think, and that's one thing I realized. I think I did too much. You know, we have this tendency of always wanting to do more and more, but more is not better. You know, like more intelligent is better.
You got to know when to pull it back.
Yes, you burn yourself out, and that's one thing too. If the fight in mixed martial art is 15, perhaps 25 minutes, you want to know how much intensity you can give for that amount of time, not for 2 hours.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And this is where the training differ in, for example, in jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and mixed martial art. And that's when you need to be smart. I believe if you get accustomed to a jiu-jitsu pace, when you compete in mixed martial art, you might have a hard time to adapt because jiu-jitsu, it's a slower pace. You know, it's not as dynamic.
Right.
One thing I did to get ready for my fight with Michael Bisping to make me more opportunist, John's was making me do 3-minute rounds. So instead of doing 5-minute rounds, because you're never going to spend an entire 5 minutes on the ground in MMA, it's very unlikely. Normally, you'll have like 3-minute round, and then you have I was taking a minute off, then another guy 3 minutes, and so it made me roll at a higher pace, more opportunist. So when I was switching partner, I knew I had only 3 minutes. I was giving everything I had in 3 minutes because I wanted to submit him. I was more hungry, and I knew after that I could recuperate and do the same thing to the next guy. But if I'm going with a guy of 5 minutes, man, I know if I submit him, I have another maybe 2 minutes left, so I'm gonna cast out. So I made myself used to a different pace, and that's what I believe. And same thing in wrestling. In wrestling training, in wrestling competition, you spend hours in competition, then you have a match, then you relax, then you have another match. So the wrestling training that I have in Montreal, that's how it's designed. It's normal because it's for a wrestling competitor. However, for martial art, especially when my fight is coming up, I need to modify that. So I don't stay as long in the room as the other guys. I get there, do my warm-up, do my matches, my live match, shake hand, thank you, bye-bye. Same thing in jiu-jitsu. When I was getting ready for Michael Bisping, I was going with some of the monsters from the squad, you know, Gordon Ryan, Gary Tonin, Jake Shield was there. I had an incredible, elite team with me. It was unbelievable. I was very well prepared. So if I would have had perhaps the same opportunity I had with that choke, maybe I would not have been willing to take it if I would have had it earlier in my career, because I was more on a slower pace, grappling pace, so to speak. You know what I mean? I was more on a control pace, ground and pound, instead of a finishing kind of
rear
pace.
naked choke that you hit on Michael Bisping is one of the best rear naked chokes I've ever seen. It was perfect.
Yes.
It was so tight, too. And it wasn't like this, right? With the hand, with the palm on the back of the head.
Reverse.
It was perfect. It was so sunk in, man.
Yeah,
it was so sunk in. It was so nice.
The people make the mistake sometimes when they have a rear naked choke. They go like this, and also they try to pull. You don't want to pull. You want to crunch your abs.
Yeah,
and but I think I was able to do that because the way that my training was designed, I became more opportunist.
Yeah,
I had more like a killer's instinct. And sometimes guys tend to say that, oh, you lose that with time, but I think you can get it back. It's just the way you design your training. And if you always go with training partner who are just as good or better than you, it will make you practice your defense, and it might decrease your creativity in offense in a way that because if you try something that miss, you might get cut.
Right.
So I believe even if you're a champion, if you're an elite, you need to go with guys that are your level, but also guys that are not as good as you.
Eddie Bravo always stressed this. He always said the best way to get good at jiu-jitsu is to spar with blue belts.
Roger Gracie, when he moved to England, that's when he became so successful.
Because he was training with people that had
Yes.
no business being on the mat with him.
Exactly.
So you get reps.
Man, his offense
Yes.
got so much better.
Yes.
And I remember at that time, like a lot of people thought that his level would decrease because he moved to England.
Right.
It went the opposite way.
Right.
And I remember when I first start my career in mixed martial art, I didn't have any training partner to go with. I had like David Loiseau, I had Patrick Cote, I had Dennis Kang. Once a week, we used to all the Canadian fighter. We used to meet once a week and train and spar, and then see ya next week. And if you had a bad training session that Friday, it messed up your whole weekend. Anyway, for me, that's how it was because I became obsessed. I was like, man, I'm going to get him next week. And you start thinking about all what you should have done. And then the next week, you redeem yourself, you know?
Yes.
But that's how it was. You know what I mean? What I was saying, I was talking about, so you don't need to always go with good guys all the time. So I had these guys on Fridays, but the other days I was going with guys that are maybe he's an engineer, the other guy is a janitor in a gym, but they were my sparring partner, and that's how I developed my takedown drill, my timing for my takedown. That's how I developed my confidence, my timing. Yeah. Because these guys were not my level, but they were. You know, I did one round with one, then a fresh one come, and later in my career, perhaps I become more conservative as a fighter because I start going with guys my level. So it makes me train in a way that if I try something new, I might miss, and they're going to make me pay the price. So, no, I'm not going to do it. And your training is always reflecting of how the fight will go, I believe.
Yeah, and as you were saying earlier, that like you have to learn to be playful. It's easier to be playful when you're going with someone who's not quite at your level. Yeah. You have to have a varied diet. Like you have to have people that are elite, where you have to know what it feels like to be in there against an elite fighter, but also people that aren't as elite so you can practice things.
That's right. I think you need to have a big range of variety of training partner.
Yes.
Because if you're used to have different training partner, the bigger is your range, the better you will be able to adapt and become the perfect nemesis of different kinds of style. A smaller, stockier opponent, a longer, bigger reach guy, you know, yes. And I think it's good also to make it playful, but to make your training partner also that it's, you know, like it's a game. It's not, you're not there to, it's not about an ego. Yes, exactly.
Did John Danaher come up with this idea of you sparring for 3 minutes instead of 5?
No, I did.
You just decided that the pace was not fast enough?
I talked to John, and John agreed on it. And I've started doing it in Montreal. And I always ask John, if John would have told me disagree, I would have obeyed to John. Because I think it's important when you're in a training camp, you cannot be the boss. You have to get out of your comfort zone. And,
I agree.
Yeah, and we talk about the Conor McGregor is last loss. I think Conor can come back like he was, and perhaps better than he was, but he needed...
You had good advice about that, though.
You need to get out of his comfort zone. He cannot be the boss. Because it's easy when you're wealthy, you're healthy, you're wealthy, you got everything you need in the world. You're not hungry anymore. But you need to be willing to do that. It's a sacrifice that need to be made, especially at the elite level.
I think someone on the outside needs to look at what you're doing. You can't look at it objectively yourself. You need someone analyzing, someone who you implicitly trust.
I agree, because sometimes it's hard to look at ourselves in the mirror and know ourselves. We need
especially when you have a big ego like Conor.
Yes.
He's so, for good reasons. I mean, he's very confident, but it's because of his success and because of his ability. He understands what he's capable of. But I don't think that's enough.
We say sometimes that you don't want to fix something that is not broken, but I think it's wrong. I think you when you're on top, you need to fix something that is not broken, because otherwise the sport will catch up to you.
Yes.
You need to innovate. And if you stay there, the sport will catch up to you. You know what I mean? Of course, Conor, he's not champion and he had a few losses, but you need to have a reality check if you want to stay there and be successful, I believe,
And it's broken. It's broken. Like,
yes.
if it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, it's broken.
It is.
So you have to fix it. I mean, Dustin clearly broke it. And the low calf kick was never a weapon that was very popular when you were champion.
Yeah.
Is that fascinating to you that this one thing has emerged that's been one of the most important weapons to learn how to avoid and block and implement?
Yeah, it's because a lot of guys, their striking background come from Muay Thai. And in Muay Thai, it's not really used because the legs are, the stance is more narrow. So if the stance are more narrow, you can lift and shield it easier. However, in MMA, the octagon is much bigger. The surface which you fight on is bigger. So in order to have a better mobility, most fighters, they adopt a wider stance, which increase your mobility. However, it has a profound effect on how you can shield the kick. I believe the best way to deal with that kick is either get out or either step blitzing with a counter, or I developed one that you go with you lift your heel. You completely turn the opposite way, you go with your heel. I was talking to Bass Rutten about it on a shoot.
How so? In what way?
In Los Angeles. So let's say you don't have time to shield it because you see it coming too late. What you do is you turn around, and it's like a little bit like you want to like an hamstring exercise. You want to lift your heel to your butt. You go here. It's like the person will hit your foot and might hit your heel.
Oh, okay.
And it works. I've done it. It works.
And so you let them sort of kick you and move, let your leg move with it.
Yes, it's either.
Yes.
I'm from karate background, so for me, that's the way I would react. You know, perhaps someone who's from a different background, it won't work as well because I like to stand wide. I like to have better mobility. So it's either you see it coming, you step out. If you're out, if you're too close, you step in, you blitz in. I've done that many times in my fight. And if you're in the middle range and you don't have time, you simply kick your heel up. So people will kick your foot. Yeah, and it works. I've done it. It works.
Interesting.
Yes.
So if you are fighting someone who's standing orthodox and you're standing orthodox, your left leg would be in front and you would just pick it up and they would kick your heel instead of kicking your calf.
Yes, and it's a fast move. Instead of because if you try to shield it, you don't have enough time. This movement is because the posterior chain of the leg, the muscle of the posterior chain are much more fast twitch than the one forward. When you sprint, you use your hamstring. You don't use your quad. You know. So when you see something, you need to react quick. You go with the hamstring and the glute, and you do that movement. It's much quicker than trying to shield it.
Some guys are doing a good job of turning their foot outside, though, and catching it on the shin instead of catching it on the calf. Like, did you see Pedro Munoz versus Jimmy Rivera? Mm-hmm. Good fight, right? But Pedro Munoz was landing the calf kicks, but then when Jimmy Rivera was trying to hit him, Pedro was turning his foot outward and catching it right on the shin. Yeah. And it discouraged Jimmy from throwing as many kicks, and it was just more effective for Pedro because he was checking them.
That would work too. However, depend on your background. Once again, I'm from karate background, so I'm used to fight sideways because karate is designed for street fight.
Yeah.
You want to protect your center line.
Yes.
If you do that in a street fight, they will kick you in the balls, you know, and because your center line is all open. So when you fight like me, it would be hard to do because I won't have enough time to turn like that. It depends. Everybody is there's some techniques that will work for you better than it will work for me, and vice versa. You need to find what is good for you.
I still think to this day that the most underutilized technique in MMA that I think will eventually be more utilized is the front leg techniques. You see it with Wonder Boy in particular. Yes. He's really good at like throwing side kicks and keeping guys off and front leg round kicks. There was guys when I was doing Taekwondo that were so fucking good with their front leg, you couldn't get close to them. And I always felt like, man, if those guys could learn everything else, if those guys could learn Muay Thai, if they could learn takedown defense and jiu-jitsu, they'd be devastating because their front leg was so good. There was a guy named Larry Jones, and I used to spar with him all the time, and Larry's legs went all the way the fuck up to here. They went up to his tits. It was crazy. He had the longest legs. I mean, his upper body was like a normal length, but he was like 6'3", but it was all long legs. And when Larry would spar people, he was really light on his foot and relaxed, and he would stand sideways, and you were terrified of his front leg. You couldn't get close to him because it was like a jab. It was so fast.
It's fascinating that you just said, Joe, because what you just said, it's Bruce Lee, like, talks about it, like, in his books. Like, when he says, you use your longest weapon against the nearest point of my opponent.
Like a jab.
Yeah, like your sidekick to the
Yes.
thigh, to the knee. I mean, that's what it is.
Yes.
I truly believe that in martial art, there's 3 different dimensions, right? There, the competitor, like I do, like in UFC, it's the real thing, you know? It's about timing. There's the choreography, like what you see, for example, on TV, the stuntmen, they are incredible. They do stuff that I cannot do. Like, they are the best in their field. And there's also the philosopher. I would say Bruce Lee, yeah, of course, he could do the 2 other dimension. And when you're a martial artist, I think you have all 3 dimensions, but there is one that you mostly better at. And Bruce Lee, I believe, what he brings to the world, what was his philosophy.
Yes.
I think he's known because of his philosophy, not necessarily because, you know, like Hollywood made him like a fighter and everything. But I think the truth is that his philosophy is really the thing that really changed the world. It changed my life.
Yes.
And it's not because it was like, he could be a good fighter, but sometimes people say, hey, what happened if you would put him in UFC? I don't think. Times has changed since then. Even if the guys that used to compete in UFC, in the first few UFC, you cannot put them in the octagon right now.
True.
It would apply to Bruce Lee as well, but his philosophy, man, that was brilliant.
I think people don't understand how revolutionary it was. Because in the 1970s, when Bruce Lee was doing like Enter the Dragon, the people that were martial arts practitioners were convinced that their style was all you needed to learn. When I was doing Taekwondo, my instructor would tell me, like, I would go to a boxing gym and train with boxers, and they would tell me, you don't need to do that. You can work your hands here. I'm like, can I though? Because I'm going to boxing gyms, I'm getting fucked up. My hands are not as good. Like, I need to learn with people that are really good boxers. So I would go and train with professional boxers, and then I was realizing all the flaws in my technique. I wouldn't have learned that in the gym. Yeah. And then I would go and train with judo guys, and I'd be like, oh, I didn't know it was so easy to throw me around. Like, you need to know, and the only way to know is to go to these different places. But Bruce Lee back then put everything together. I was watching, my daughters did martial arts when they were younger, but they're not really into it anymore. But sometimes they'll watch movies with me and shit. And I was watching Enter the Dragon. And the opening scene of Enter the Dragon, when he's got the mixed martial arts gloves on. Remember?
Is there the one with Bolo Young?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They look like MMA gloves. And this is, you know, in the 1970s. Yeah. And he wins by an armbar. It's kind of a fucked up armbar.
Yeah.
It's a bullshit armbar. But,
yeah, it's the worst armbar I've ever seen. But listen, it was ahead of his time.
Yes, well, there was a lot of arm bars in the early UFCs that were bullshit too.
That's right.
Other than Hoist, here it is, man. Like, watch this scene. Look, I mean, look at his gloves.
Is that Bolo Young next to him?
Yes.
Man, he doesn't have his
chest.
chest.
That's Bolo. No,
that's not Bolo. No, it can't be Bolo Young.
But Bolo's in the movie, right?
I'm gonna tell you something.
I think he's in it later.
I'm gonna tell you something. Bolo Young is the best villain ever in all martial art, like, movies, you know.
Yes.
He's unbelievable in Bloodsport, and like, amazing.
Look how shredded Bruce was too. Woo, he was shredded.
That's right.
I mean, he had no body fat, but he was so fast, and his movement was so interesting, and there was nothing like it at the time.
He was ahead of his time. He was like
way ahead,
the greatest of his time, 100%.
But there's innovators, and you can't compare them to people that have learned and already moved past his footsteps, because he carved the path. He carved the path, and by the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, if you read that book, and I read that book cover to cover like 20 times, he combined martial arts in a way. He said, absorb what's useful, take what's useful, and throw out everything else. And there were so many martial artists that hated him because of that, because of what he was saying was like that it didn't matter if you were doing karate or if you were doing Muay Thai, whatever it was. Just find out what works and put them together, put them all together. And people did not like hearing that back then, because if you were running a karate school, you were trying to tell your students this was all you needed to learn. That's it. But he knew. Like, I talked to Gene LaBelle, and Gene LaBelle taught him about grappling. And one of the things that Gene LaBelle did when they first worked together, Gene LaBelle grabbed him. You know, Gene LaBelle was a fucking massive guy. He was built like a bear, and phenomenal judo player, national champion, elite of the elite. He grabbed a hold of Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee was like, "Oh shit!" Like he realized, like I'm helpless against this fucking gorilla.
Yeah.
And then Gene showed Bruce Lee judo, and he showed him submission techniques.
That's right.
He showed him all that stuff, and Bruce was super open-minded to that.
We cannot compare. Like sometimes we talk about who's the greatest. It's same thing in basketball. Same thing. Like
Yes.
because I think it's Einstein says we stand on shoulders of giants.
Yes.
All the progress that have been made, the mistake that have been made in the past, the
Yes.
progress we've
Yes.
learned from it. So we already start nowadays. We already have a head start
Yes.
on the people in the past.
I think that's with everything.
We cannot compare. So people always in every interview they ask me, "Who's the GOAT? Who's the GOAT?" And I always surprise them. I said, "For me, the GOAT is Royce Gracie." And
Yes.
people are like, "Yeah, but you put him in the ring right now." I'm like, "Of course, you put him in the ring. It would be a different story."
Yeah.
The fighters of today are better than the fighters of yesterday, and as good as the fighters are today. Sorry to disappoint the one that are watching, and if I hurt some ego, but in the future they will be better.
There will be
We
better.
cannot
Yeah.
stop the progress. I remember, Joe, I to learn jiu-jitsu, like in 20 years ago, like to more than 25 years ago, to learn jiu-jitsu, I need to drive to New York, to be physically present in the class. Now I can grab my cell phone and learn a technique from a guy who's in Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
And now there's things that I worked on this weekend. There's like holograms. This is going to be the future of the sport.
Holograms?
Holograms. So you'll be able to turn, to zoom in, to check under, to where he put his hand. I was with Kevin Lee. We work on stuff like that.
That's what they were talking about.
Yeah, bro.
I saw you and Kevin in front of a green screen.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a game changer. I told a guy that he wanted to do exclusively for sports, for games, but for instructional, this is a game changer. And I don't think the athletes get better. I don't think Usain Bolt is necessarily better than Jesse Owen in the 100 meter. I think he has access to better knowledge, better technology that makes him have better performance. It's the same thing in fighting. However, in fighting, it's very subjective because we cannot measure. We don't have any instrument of measure. So it's always, is Ali against Tyson, who would have won? St-Pierre versus Usman, or like they make comparative stuff like that.
Yeah.
However, it cannot be made. But normally, general idea is that the future is always better than the past, and that's how it is. And if I don't agree with that, that's mean I insult the entire UFC roster. I insult the entire NBA, the entire NHL. That's what I believe.
I think you're 100% correct, and I think the quote, "We stand on the shoulders of giants," that's really what it is. You don't get to where we are today without Royce Gracie, without Bruce Lee, without the steps of all these people, without Matt Hughes, without Georges St-Pierre, without fill in the blank, Randy Couture, Tito Ortiz, all those fighters, they paved the way, and the young fighters that were watching them when they were children, they learned from watching these guys compete and perform. And in jiu-jitsu, it's a great example. Gordon Ryan is the greatest jiu-jitsu player of all time.
I agree, 100%.
And he's only 25.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy, right? But also, why is he the greatest? Well, he's the greatest because John Danaher is a brilliant instructor, and John Danaher came straight from Renzo Gracie. Renzo Gracie, who's a cousin of Royce, who's also one of the greatest of all time and one of the innovators. All this, the Gracie family and all the lessons learned from the early days of mixed martial arts gets transferred to John Danaher and his genius mind, and then he finds this guy who's a fucking savage, who's willing to put in the time in Gordon Ryan, and then you see Gordon. Did you see his last match with Wagner Rocha?
But yeah,
he wrote down on a piece of paper how he was going to submit. He wrote a triangle on a piece of paper, and he handed it to the commentators, and he said, "Open that up after the match is over." And then he plays with Wagner, and then submits him with a triangle. It's fucking incredible.
Gordon is my friend. And this could be also by deduction. When you talk about preparation, how good someone can be prepared, it's because he knew how his strength would match versus his opponent.
Yes.
That's when the genius comes in, like John Danaher, Gordon Ryan. And Gordon is amazing, man. He's the best right now I ever roll with. Like all size.
He's the best I've ever seen. I've never seen anybody
But as
better.
good as he is, watch out for his little brother, Nicky.
Oh, he's a beast.
And you know why they're so good? Is John is a PhD in philosophy. He's incredible. Like he used to teach at Columbia University. And all his academic background experience, he brings that into martial art. That's why, for me, he's the best teacher ever.
Also, he's a 7-day-a-week guy. I talk to him. I go, 7 days a week.
Morning to night, my friend.
Every day. I go, you guys don't take any day off? He goes, no. I go, what do you do for recovery? He goes, you just train less hard.
Yeah, that's
I'm like,
right.
Jesus Christ. He goes,
Right.
I go, Christmas? He goes, Christmas, New Year's, birthday,
You
every
can,
day.
You can do that in jiu-jitsu, Joe, but you cannot do that, I think, in a sport like with boxing or a more dynamic sport. You cannot do that because it would be it would have a profound effect on your body and how you recuperate.
I think you're right too in terms of your tissue.
We talk about how why people gets better. We talk about knowledge. You know, one of the greatest role model for me was Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky and ice hockey in Canada is our national sport. He was incredibly humble. His record, I think he's one of the athlete all sport combined that I can say for certainty, or almost for certainty, that his record will never be broken during my living.
Really?
Because, yeah. He's that good, bro. He's amazing.
See, I don't know jack shit about hockey.
However, if you would put him right now in on the ice, I don't think he would do that well. Because for his time, when you talk about the GOAT, we don't talk about the present time. We talk about how was he for his time.
So who he was competing against.
It depends what GOAT mean. It doesn't mean for his time, or it means like right now. Because if we talk about right now, it will always be a guy from the present. And man, he used to start. He's the first guy like to start to go behind the goaltender net to start a play. Now you see it. He was the first. Before him, nobody did that before, and he revolutionized the game. So now they stand on shoulders of giant. Now you see that every day. But he was so special because he had it figured out in the beginning. And what makes him so great, it's not because he was faster, stronger than everyone else. It's because of his IQ, his hockey IQ.
Yeah.
So this is something that when you talk about sport, we always tend to say, oh, he's so athletic. But I think when you say athletic, of course, we talk about muscle, speed, and everything. But athleticism is also how your brain can adjust to things, how your learning capacity. That has a lot to do with athleticism. How fast can you learn a movement pattern? How fast can you adapt to certain situation to solve it? This is athleticism as well.
And how quickly can you access the techniques?
Yes.
How deep is your database? If I had to pay money for any matchup ever, I would pay so much money for Rickson Gracie versus Gordon Ryan. I know a lot of people would say they would have a lot of different fights they would like to see between, John Jones and this and that and all. That's all good. For me, I love all martial arts, but I'm most perplexed by the people that stand out as being above and beyond. And in Rickson's time, you talk to any black belt from Rickson's time, and they're like, Rickson was the best. No one could touch Rickson. Rickson would line these black belts out and line them up and do a seminar and tap them all, one after the other, one after the other.
You think it's true, or is because it's part of the legend?
No,
of
it's
the
true.
cult? Yeah.
It's true because Jean-Jacques Machado told me.
Wow.
I know it's true. Because Jean-Jacques he's as honest as the day is long. Jean-Jacques never lies about anything. He tells you. And he always says, man, Rickson will fuck you up. That's what he always said. He goes, Rickson was different. He was different.
I got to ask you a question to put you on the spot. I mean, you cut it if you wanted to.
Okay.
I heard rumors about a fight with you and Wesley Snipes.
But it didn't happen. It was supposed to happen.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I wish people ask me about that. I was like, man, Joe Rogan, like because you're a comedian, people doesn't know that you have a legit like martial art background. You got the best spinning back kick I ever seen. And I would have, like, people when they talk to me about it, they say, yeah, but he's a good martial. I'm like, man, Joe Rogan all day, man. Let me tell you, like, this is different. I've done movies, and when you do movies, it makes you look good. But when do it for real and do it for the camera, it's two different things. I would have loved to see this.
Well, I think he just needed money. You know, he was in a bad situation where he owed taxes, and the government, they put him in jail. You know, he got put in jail for tax evasion. I think he had bad advisors, and sometimes advisors would tell you, like, there's a law and you don't have to follow that law because of, and I think that's what happened with Wesley. And I'm a fan of his, by the way. I love Blade. It's one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. I think he's great, and he's a legit martial artist. It wouldn't have been easy. But I also knew that he didn't have any jiu-jitsu training. And I was like, I know how to kickbox. I fought a lot of Taekwondo tournaments. I fought some kickboxing matches. I'm like, I know how to strike. If he doesn't know any jiu-jitsu, at the time I was a brown belt, I was like, good luck. I'm going to grab you. What the fuck are you going to do if I grab you? Like, I don't think people understand how helpless you are if you're not trained in jiu-jitsu, or even if you're a blue belt, if you train with a guy who's a legit brown belt or a black belt.
Knowledge is a weapon. It's like, even if you're the best boxer in the world, you're Floyd Mayweather, and it's like I take Floyd Mayweather and I bring him to fight in the pool, in the water. If Floyd doesn't know how to swim, it would be the same analogy that taking someone that doesn't have any jiu-jitsu background, if the fight goes to the ground, which is very likely because you need, in MMA, in a street fight, you need to go on the ground to finish your opponent if he falls down, right? Right.
And there's so many other elements, you know. It's just, did you ever see when Vince Phillips fought Masato in K1?
No, I don't think so.
Vince Phillips was a bad motherfucker. He was an elite boxer, world champion boxer. See if you can find that. Online. I think it was in K1, and Masato was at the peak of his game. There it is. And so Vince Phillips at the time was a little older. I think, if I remember correctly, I think he was in his later 30s. But Vince Phillips was a fucking elite professional boxer, world champion. And Masato, he's 44. Yeah, a little too old for that, unfortunately. So it would have been interesting more so if they fought in their prime. But Vince was still very fucking good. But Masato just lit his legs on fire.
Oh, man.
And Masato, at the time, Masato's one of the greatest Japanese kickboxers of all time. I mean, he was fucking elite, man. And his leg kicks were phenomenal. And so he just moved around. And if they had a boxing match, I think Vince would have fucked him up. But they didn't have a boxing match. Masato just kept chopping at those legs, moving away. Boom! Look at that. Moving away. Boom!
You changed the rules. You changed the game.
Yep.
I remember Tim Sylvia versus in MMA. The
Ray Mercer.
Yeah, Mercer knocked him out. But you know why? Because it was stupid from Sylvia try to make it a boxing match.
Well, do you know what the rule? You know what happened?
No, I don't know.
Here's what happened. They were supposed to have a boxing match. Here's what happened. Here, let's just watch real quick. Boom! Timber! This is what happened. They were supposed to have a boxing match, but the athletic commission wouldn't sanction a boxing match because Tim Sylvia didn't have any boxing matches, and Ray Mercer was a gold medalist in the Olympics and a world champion. So they're like, there's no fucking way. Even though Ray Mercer was older, they said, there's no fucking way you're going to fight Tim Sylvia in a boxing match. So they said, what about a mixed martial arts match? Well, okay. Well, that makes more sense because Tim Sylvia was a world champion in mixed martial arts, and you're a world champion in boxing. Okay. So they sanctioned that fight, but they made a gentleman's agreement. The gentleman's agreement was they would just have a boxing match with the little gloves on. But they open up the fight. Watch they open up the fight. Tim Sylvia leg kicks him. And look at Ray Mercer. He's like, what the fuck? Because he's like, I thought we had a rule. Bang!
Oh, and my God.
That's why he was so angry after the fight was over, because they weren't supposed to kick. But Tim Sylvia opened up, and he hit him with a leg kick. Look, see how he's like, what the fuck is this? He's like, what the fuck is this? Because they had an agreement. The agreement
didn't know that.
Yes, they were going to have a boxing match, but with the little gloves on.
It's same, like, these fights are mismatched. You see Randy Couture versus James Toney.
Yes.
If you're James Toney, what the hell are you thinking, man?
James Toney needed money. That's what that was. James Toney needed money. I remember interviewing James Toney before the fight, And I'm like, did you practice any kicks? Like, yeah, I practice all these kicks. I would practice side check kick. He was making kicks up that didn't even exist. He's like, yeah, I'm training. Don't worry about it. I'm training.
Randy went for a low single.
Yep.
And a low single when there's no shoes to grab. The only thing you need to do is to turn your kneecap facing the other way and just step out. Like it's the most ridiculous thing to do. Like to escape, but because it's outside of his frame of reference.
I don't think he did. I watched him train on video at least it looks like he was training with a karate guy. Like he was hitting some pads and stuff and throwing some like here's the Randy. I mean, but also Randy was an elite wrestler and also an elite world champion mixed martial arts fighter. Got on top of James and hit him a bunch of times, and then mercifully arm triangled him. If I remember correctly, I believe it was an arm triangle he submitted him with.
Yeah, but now they do more and more of these matches. Like you have Jake Paul versus Ben Askren.
Yeah, here it is, arm triangle. Yeah, that was what it was.
I asked Freddie Roach because like I train with Freddie Roach. I say you train because they make it look like he train Ben Askren like the whole camp. He said he came only for a week.
Well, I know he's training with Duke Rufus. You know, Duke is obviously a very good striking coach. And look, Ben is a world-class wrestler. Yeah. I mean, in his prime, he was one of the best wrestlers that America had to offer. He's an elite wrestler. Yeah. He's also older, and he's got a lot of mixed martial arts experience, but none of that was as a striker. His striking was really just a distraction in order to get you down.
You take away his favorite, you take away all his favorite weapon.
Yes,
this is
true.
This is not it's not fair, you know.
It's weird though because he's clearly an elite competitor, and you could say, oh, Masvidal knocked him out. Let me tell you something. That fucking knee would have knocked out 99% of the human beings that have ever lived. That knee was perfect. Yeah. I mean, Masvidal's a slick guy. He's a slick, clever guy, and the way he did that by leaning up against the cage and then stepping off to the side so that Askren follows him, and then he moves forward. Askren couldn't resist. Yeah. His natural instinct is to just dive on the single or dive on a double. Just get those legs and try to take him down.
Perfect bait.
Oh, it was amazing.
Perfect timing.
And you see in his training that he practiced that over and over and over again. You know, they showed the video of Masvidal practicing for that very scenario. But other than that, he's fought a lot of elite strikers and not gotten knocked out. Like if you look at his fights when he fought Douglas Lima or Koreskov, when he fought those guys in Bellator, I mean, he did very well, but he was allowed to wrestle. How was he going to do in an actual boxing match? I mean, just be honest, I've never thought of him as being a good striker. No. He's a guy that just kind of uses his hands to get a hold of you.
It's a different muscles, too, you know? Like when you're a wrestler, it's all about pulling, you know what I mean? And driving. Boxing is way more dynamic, you know? And he's an Olympic wrestler, you know what I mean? The reason why he had so much success, I believe, Ben Askren, it's because when he was in his prime, nobody could figure out how they know how technically make it in a way that the odds would be in their favor, but they couldn't do it. You know what I mean? They knew that the secret to beat him was to keep it standing up and keep distance, you know.
But they couldn't stop the shot.
They couldn't do it. Everybody knew what he was going to do, but nobody could stop it. And now you take that away from him. It's going to be hard for him. I just hope, what I found sad sometimes, I just hope, man, and I really do hope that it does not make us look bad. I hope Ben is training hard and you know, at least, you know, like
when is that? That fight is soon, isn't it? 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The problem is he doesn't like. Okay, it's hard to frame this correctly.
But Freddie Roach asked him because if I thought that if one guy can help him the best is Freddie Roach. So I told, hey, where is Ben? You training Ben? And he says Ben, he came only 1 week. I was disappointed. I said, shoot, I hope he has a right, he's surrounded by real boxers, because the world of boxing and the world of MMA is a different world. Yeah,
his hands look pretty good there, though. His hands look pretty good.
Yeah, but everybody is champion on the pad, Joe. Yes. You know, everybody. You never know.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, man.
Everybody's a champion on the pad.
You see, guys, I had four amateur boxing fight. You know, I'm 4-0 in boxing, And I remember before every amateur boxing fight, you know, you watch the guys you're gonna fight. I was in a open division, so I was fighting guys that had multiple fight record. So I look at them; they all look good on the pad. Same thing in MMA, pow, 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 because they're used to the rhythm, you know. So everybody's champion, but that's when you fight, it's a different story. I just hope he put on the work and he sparred. Otherwise, it's gonna look bad, you know. It's gonna look bad for all the athlete, not only in MMA, in boxing. But Jake Paul is a real boxer, I think.
Yes.
He had legit boxing fight in amateur, right? Him or his brother.
Well, he's only had a couple of fights, but in the way he looked against, what is that guy's name? Nate. What's his name, Jamie? Nate Robinson. The way he looked in that fight,
he knocked him out.
He knocked him out, but he also knocked him out with short punches. He throws short. He's not winding up. He threw a short right hand that he dropped him with. He's got real skill.
Yeah,
like he can fucking hit, man.
Yeah,
his punching is very, very legit. He's got legitimate knockout power, and he's willing. Like he's willing to like train hard and spar hard, and like he looks fucking good, man.
What I don't like is the idea that a lot of people thinks it's maybe because a lot of them it's because of ignorance. They think, oh, he's just a YouTuber against an MMA champion. But the truth is, it's you got a guy that is he's got a real boxing background, and you know
he's a good athlete too.
Yes, and he's fighting another guy who's a MMA fighter, but that's really not
his specialty.
That's really not his specialty, you know. But the reason why he was successful in MMA is because he was so damn good in the other thing.
He's also quite a bit larger. Like I think Jake is. What did he weigh against Nate Robinson? His brother is like 200 plus pounds, somewhere in the range. And
they've just faced off the other day.
Yeah, I saw that.
Next to each other.
I saw that. But I mean, he's not just taller. And he's a little bit taller, but he's like a physically bigger person. Like Ben, although, you know, his body never looked impressive, he's very strong as a grappler, but he doesn't get a chance to grapple. This is not a grappling match. This is a boxing match. And I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
I think he would need to sometime, because I've sparred world champion boxers, you know, like in my life many times, you know. I can hang there for 3-4 rounds, you know, with the guys I spar. But after 4 rounds, what you find is that they're way more efficient than you, especially in the inside boxing, because we do not have inside boxing in MMA.
Right.
So everything we do, it's the outside. And when we're inside, we're clinching, and you know. So that's
a good point.
For that reasons, boxers in boxing are way more efficient than MMA, because that's the biggest difference, is the inside boxing.
Yes.
So he's a wrestler, and that's where things will get complicated for him.
But the thing is, though, that he can tie him up in a way that Jake Paul's never been tied up before.
Yeah, but
like if
big gloves and
that's true, but still. A clamp is a clamp. The way that guy gets a hold of you, he'll grab the back of your head, grab all of an arm. He'll muscle him around in a way that he's going to feel very uncomfortable clinching with him.
That's right.
But can he do that and not get knocked out? Can he do that and not get hit?
Can he do that without being fined? I mean, you know, like McGregor, I think there were rules that he was fined if he did to Mayweather. So
I think the rules were, it says 5'10", 6'1", but that's not the big thing. The height is not the big thing. The big thing is the physical weight, lean weight. See, I think when you think about Ben Askren competing most of his career at 170 pounds, he's a small guy. Like even at 170, he's not like Kamaru Usman at 170.
Yeah.
Like Usman at 170 is fucking shredded and gigantic.
Yeah.
You know, or Douglas Lima is another guy shredded and gigantic at 170. Ben is a smaller guy. Like he carries body weight, like fat on him. Like I think when Ben wrestled, like what was Ben's when he was wrestling, when he was at the peak of his form as an amateur wrestler? I think he was in, I don't remember, but I believe it was in the 160s.
It says 170 also.
As a wrestler?
Where
does it say that on Wikipedia?
Wikipedia says he's 190.
What's he weighs now?
No. It says 170 actually, but...
Well, yeah, that's what he competes at.
174
but I mean,
in college.
That's what he weighed? 74 as a wrestler in college? Mm-hmm. Really?
I just hope they don't get hurt, man. I like to see these fights because it's the entertainment that it provides. There is a story behind it, and it's fun to watch because I'm a curious person. I'm gonna watch it. But I just hope they don't get humiliated or badly hurt
Right.
because it will hurt me to watch it. And then on both sides, you know?
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
What did Jake Paul weigh when he fought Nate Robinson? 189. That's not too bad. So we're only dealing with about 20 pounds of difference. It's not too bad. The difference is power. Jake has like real power. He has real knockout power, and he's got real speed. Where again, Ben's body is designed to squeeze you and crush you and throw you around.
It's not dynamic. It's
Right.
it's isometric strength.
Yes,
Squeezing. And in
yes.
boxing there's no room for isometry. It's all about dynamic. Pa,
Yeah.
pa. And that's where Ben lacks.
It's going to be interesting. It's
Yeah.
going to be interesting. Who knows? I mean, maybe he knows something we don't know. But also, you have to take into consideration the fact that it's an enormous payday. And maybe that's why he's willing to do this. Because he said that the payday he's going to get from this Jake Paul fight would be bigger than any payday he's ever had in his career.
Oh, that's worth it then. Good for him. Good for him. This is important. He can
Yeah.
assure a future for him and family. This is important. Good for him.
I mean, yeah. I'm curious to see how many other fighters decide to do this because there's some, like Anderson Silva is fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Do you know about that?
No.
Yes. That's a new fight that's been announced that makes me uncomfortable.
There is
Julio Cesar
more and
Chavez
more,
Jr.
and yeah, no, I know, but he's not the same Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. that he was when he was in his prime. But he's, you know, he looked damn good.
He's a dangerous striker.
Yeah.
He's a good boxer. He's not, you know, he's not the cream of the crop. He's not who his dad was.
Yeah.
I mean, his dad is one of my all-time favorite fighters.
Oh, okay, wait.
Oh, my goodness.
Junior.
Junior's younger.
Okay, that's not good.
Junior,
then.
I think, is only like 35.
No, that's not good then. That's not good
yeah,
for.
and Junior's big.
Yeah, okay. If
Junior's 175. He's a bigger fighter.
yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not okay. I thought it was the dad. No.
No, that would be terrible.
Yeah, no, but
that's rude.
You know, I thought it was good for
no,
for Anderson.
no,
I was like,
no,
what the
no,
hell? He's going back to fight.
No,
But
I mean,
I think this is bad because he's still active, right?
he's still active as of recently. He quit. He kind of like he didn't quit. But he basically like laid off the gas against Canelo a few years ago, and most people were very upset at him for that fight because it looked like he was just trying to survive against Canelo Alvarez. Canelo was just lighting him up, and so that was, I think, at 160.
Seniors fighting on the same card, FYI.
No.
Yeah.
I knew.
Hector Camacho's son.
He's fighting Hector Camacho's son?
Yeah.
How old is Hector Camacho's
I don't
son?
know. This doesn't sound either anymore.
Hey, Joe, I knew
Julio
I
senior? Oh my god.
I knew I've seen it somewhere. It was in the back of my mind, so I thought I had the wrong person. I knew I've seen it somewhere.
That's crazy.
But you know, Anderson always publicly says that he would have loved to fight John Jones. I think it would be better because it would be like
Roy Jones. Roy Jones.
Yeah, Roy Jones, but not
Yeah.
John Jones. Roy Jones,
Yeah.
exactly. Like it would be a good novelty fight for him. This could be better. I
When
think.
is this fight supposed to take place?
June 19th
Here's-
in Mexico.
Let me be honest with you. It depends on what they're going to let him do in terms of like hormones. That's the big factor here because Anderson, towards the end of his reign or the end of his career in MMA, just was not the same guy. From Chris Weidman on, he's not the same guy, and he got older and he lost a few steps. And from the second Weidman fight, so he lost to Chris Weidman. Then the only fight that he won was one decision against Derek Brunson. And he came very close in that fight with Michael Bisping. That was a close fight, but every fight other than that, he lost all those fights. That's like, I think it was like 8 fights, which is crazy when you see how dominant he was when he was in his prime. And there's a thing where an athlete just reaches a point of no return where their body just does not respond. His body didn't look the same anymore. I mean, you look at the Anderson Silva that fought Yushin Okami. You look at the Anderson Silva that fought Dan Henderson. Yeah. He was fucking jacked and shredded, and he was so good, man.
Yeah.
Dana White sent me a text message the other day with a video of Anderson Silva when he fought Dan Henderson. He goes, man, people forget how fucking good Anderson was when he was in his prime. Oh, yeah. And I watched the video. I didn't forget, but I kind of did. I had to watch it again. I was like, God damn.
It was amazing.
He was so good. Yeah. He was so good.
Yeah.
Anderson was so fucking good. He had ESP. Like, he knew what people were going to do before they did it. Yeah. And his reaction time was so fast. But when it goes, it goes.
I think like we talk about GOAT sometimes. I think Anderson Silva is there. He's the GOAT, but
he's one of them.
yeah,
that's for
the people
sure.
always remember your last performance. I think
Yes.
Anderson is there. I think of course John Jones. Anderson is because he was so flamboyant. John Jones, he faced the most adversity. I think Stipe Miocic was there.
He's
too.
the GOAT
He
heavyweight.
just lost. People say, "Oh no," but I think he was the GOAT.
Oh,
you know,
man. I mean, you think about he beat legends. He beat Alistair Overeem, Junior Dos Santos. He beat everybody.
You never fight the same fighter twice. You might fight the same name twice, but every fight leaves a scar. Could be for the best or for the worst.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Khabib was there because he had the most dominated career that ever. I don't know if he ever lost a round. He might have, but you know, he was so incredible.
Yeah.
You have Demetrius Johnson. You have like
One of the greats too.
He was
maybe the GOAT.
all around. It was
Yeah.
amazing in his prime, you know. But now you keep fighting when you're not in your prime. You kind of make people forget how good you were. BJ Penn was there. He was just the perfect fighter. It was amazing, you know. Like you have I think personally Dominic Cruz too. Like he had a time like he was his footwork was. I really enjoyed watching him fight.
Oh
you know?
yeah, he was so innovative.
Then
So
there's
innovative.
Conor McGregor too because of his precision. Royce Gracie, you know. So there's many arguments to say why someone is the GOAT. Then you have to. It depends what it is for you. Then after you have the performance enhancing drugs and stuff that you know, like
Yep.
you have to weigh in the whole thing. You know what I mean? So
It's almost you can't say who the greatest of all time is, but there's some greatest of all times.
for
There's
their
some- yeah.
time. However,
one of the greatest of all time. Yeah.
if we talk about who's the fighter that nowadays that we all weight included, everything goes in a fight, who would you choose?
Francis.
Francis, yeah, me too.
Right now?
Right now, yeah.
Who the fuck is going to fight him that's lighter than him?
However, I realized something like, and I know a lot of young fighters might think they might not think this way, but the way it is in this game is like that. I think, for example, you have three guys that are on top. This guy beat this guy. This guy beat this guy. This guy beat this guy. It's just a matter of timing.
Right.
Fighting, it's about style.
Right.
It's never forever.
Because
It's about
Derek Lewis
timing.
beat Francis
right.
by decision.
That's right.
So maybe he's the greatest, right?
So-
So you have to look at it that way.
For perhaps one day will be someone that will figure out Francis how to fight a
Maybe.
guy like this.
Well, Derek Lewis is an interesting case because he's so big and he can take a tremendous punch and he can knock you out with one shot. And he's the only guy in the heavyweight division that can knock Francis out with one shot. He can knock anybody out.
Yeah.
The way he knocked out Curtis Blades, I think Derek can knock out any man alive. He has that kind of power.
I agree. However, what is his Achilles? It's his wrestling.
The ground game, yes.
Yes.
But he can tighten that up, and one of the things that he's tightened up is his endurance.
So you got, let's say we speculate.
Right.
I don't think so, but let's say we speculate. Okay, you have Lewis beat Francis beat Miocic, but Miocic beat Lewis. Who's the best?
But he didn't
There's
fight.
I know
he didn't.
we just speculate,
Right.
but that's how the world
But
of fighting works.
Cormier beat Lewis.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Stipe beat Cormier twice.
I'm
it's
saying
crazy.
it's just speculation. You know, if
Right.
it happened, like it, and if you beat someone, that does not
Yes.
mean also you will beat him every time.
Right, like
It's a
Matt
question-
Serra and you.
It's
right?
a question of odds.
Yes.
It's maybe 9 out of 10 you will beat him, but that night, you zig when you should have zagged, and
Yes.
it's too late.
It's too late. The thing about Francis that makes it so dangerous is you can't make any errors. You can't make any errors. Like at any time you can get hit with a bomb and then it's over. And like the punch that he knocks Stipe out with too is short left hook. Stipe's moving towards him, he just bang catches him with that short left hook.
We forget that Stipe has knockout power too.
Oh,
so
fuck yeah.
And
Knocked
if
out-
you watch that fight, look, the end of the fight, he missed
Mm-hmm.
with a right hand. That was like 2 inches from the. So it could have, he could have
Well, he
been
didn't
dangerous.
miss. He hit him. He hit him with that
No,
right
no, but
hand. as
I
Francis was
remember I
coming
watched. I
towards
was
him.
doing the French commentator. There's a right hand. You watch the last part of that fight when it
Mm-hmm.
ends. There's a counter right, that straight right that missed from Stipe. That if I
I
would
didn't
if
think it missed. I thought
no,
it
it
landed.
missed. If it would have cut him, my friend, maybe we would have a different discussion. But I'm just saying, sometimes fights, the outcome could switch to one side to another. It happens so fast. You know what I mean?
Especially in heavyweights.
Yeah.
Because they hit so hard. That's the thing. You can't make too many errors in the heavyweight division. But I also think that Francis had Stipe hurt in the first round bad and then knocked him down with that step forward jab in the second round. He had him in big trouble already.
Yeah. The problem I think Stipe did, he tried to repeat exactly, do a copy-paste of what he did in the first fight. He thought Francis perhaps would come aggressive and try to... But Francis was smart. He didn't burn himself.
Mm-hmm.
So now we know that now Francis he has improved as a fighter. It's as
improving.
scary as he is.
Yes.
He's improving. It's
well,
amazing.
the amount of time that he's been in martial arts is relatively limited.
Yes.
You know, I mean, when he first fought for the title, he'd only been doing martial arts for about 5 years.
Yes.
So now it's 8 years, but now also he's with a full camp, right? He's now Extreme Couture in Vegas. They're working with him on all the aspects of his game. His takedown defense, like when Stipe shot for the takedown, Francis stuffed the takedown correctly.
Textbook.
And
with the head inside. It was beautiful.
And then got behind him and hit him with those bombs. So let's see the right hand.
Yes.
Let's see it.
I have to start doing it in slow-mo so you can see it.
Oh,
but
sure.
It's
Okay.
right there.
Boom! Oh no, that's reversed. That's reversed.
No, at the end of the.
But this is
You're
before
correct.
this.
It is reversed.
Yeah, it's reversed.
That's
'cause that was a
right
hand
before,
But
right
if you go
before.
before that,
Well, he does hit. He lands the one. Then you're talking about.
let me see it. Let me see it.
It's
right here. It's right here.
There's one that kind of missed at one point. But is
It's that one.
Right here. No, it's right before.
No,
that.
no, no,
It's
before.
Right before that.
I remember
Yeah,
because
I
was
remember specifically. It's all reversed, but I still remember it very specifically. See, when he's moving forward, it's because he's already hit him. Can you go before that?
Yeah, it's the last sequence.
Right there. Back up again.
No,
Right,
even
right.
more.
Just it doesn't matter. Back up again. Yeah, let's go here. So this is a knock. Let's just let it play out from here. So boom, boom, boom. He hits him with these big punches. He catches him with the uppercut. That's it right there.
You see this one?
Yeah.
I said a right.
Let me see it again. Well,
It was a straight left.
No, it wasn't. This is reversed.
Oh, okay.
This is backwards, and the reason why it's backwards is so they don't get hit with copyright. Because that punch that dropped him was not in real life a right hand; it was a left hand. See right there.
But it was.
See, but he hit him a little bit.
It was on the top. Imagine you hit with that on. Yeah, but you miss from 1 inches. You miss by 2 inches. You miss the gold. The home run is when you hit on the chin. Imagine if you hit with that on the chin.
Let me see it.
He miss a little bit. You see,
I don't know. I think he punched him.
Yeah, but it's not at the right spot. You have to punch in the point of the chin in the right spot.
I think he hit him on the cheek though. I think he hit him right in the face.
I think it's on more on the forehead.
I don't know about that. I think he hit him straight on the cheek. Let's see it. This is
and he was coming forward.
Boom!
See this?
That he hit him right on the cheek. I mean, it's not perfectly on the point of the chin, but you're right.
Imagine you catch that with the like the perfect timing on the point of like sitting down like this.
Yes, he made him sit back. He
It
made him step back, but then Stipe came forward and then he caught him perfectly with the left hook.
It's just saying sometimes like, and it happened like the outcome of a fight can switch on a blink of an eye.
Yes.
You know, like
especially in a crazy exchange like that.
I remember Volkov against Derek Lewis. Volkov was winning the fight, and Lewis,
Yes.
boom, and it was beautiful.
That was
but
crazy.
But it's just to show that sometimes when you get confidence is great for a fighter.
Yes.
But it's dangerous because there's nothing more dangerous for a fighter than success. Success makes you weak, man. Success makes you forget sometime. Then you're not. You know what I mean? It can be very dangerous.
You get
and
outside of your composure.
I love Francis. I hope. Like I want Francis. Francis is making history, man. He's the one that can, you know, like he's amazing fighter, amazing human being, and he perhaps maybe one day they're gonna go like Rumble in the Jungle, Ali Foreman, you know, do that in Africa. That would be amazing. He had that aura on him.
Yeah.
But man, I want him to stay successful and never forget that. No matter how dangerous, how good you are, and especially in heavyweight, you only at 1 inches to lose everything. So you always need to be sharp because now everybody look at him. He's the target.
You know who I would have loved to see? Francis versus Fedor in his prime.
Ooh, that would have been good. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Fedor was a very dangerous one too.
He was special.
Yes.
He was special.
But I think now if you look at boxing, it's the same thing. Look Tyson Fury, how big he is. Look Francis. If I would go back in the gladiator time, he's the perfect human being, man.
I know.
He's like,
especially for the
he's a
weight
specimen,
limit
man.
for 265, because Francis is a natural 275-pound guy.
He's
He
like
cuts a little bit of weight.
You cannot have a more perfect
Impossible.
athletic than
Yeah.
Francis, and
Tall, super strong.
yes,
Muscular, but not too muscular. It's like everything's perfect.
He's
Ridiculous
just the
power.
perfect human being
Yeah.
to be a killing machine. It's
Yes.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. You know what I mean?
Also, what Daniel Cormier said at the end of the fight, he said, strap a rocket to Francis's back because he's going to take off, because he's got that Tyson-like aura where
Yes.
everyone's scared of fighting him. He knocks everybody out. Like when you see him knock a guy like Stipe out, who's the consensus greatest UFC heavyweight champion of all time. Stipe defended the title more than anybody. He won the title twice. When you watch him fight, like Stipe was the fucking man. So Francis, when he knocks him out, so he takes the title from the greatest heavyweight champion of all time, knocks him out cold, and now he has this ability to transcend the sport.
Yes.
He has this ability to become this gigantic superstar.
Yeah, he can change the game, and I'm very happy for him. I just hope he stay focused, and man, I want, you know, it's just amazing for him. Like if you know about his story, it's just incredible. Like it's very inspirational.
Yes. Now,
It's
let me ask you
amazing.
this. What do you think about what John Jones is saying? Because John Jones, now, I am always on the side of I want fighters to get paid as much as possible. And John Jones is saying,
let me demystify this.
Please.
I is afraid. Yes, John Jones is afraid of Francis, and Francis is afraid of John Jones. Because if they would not be afraid, that means they don't care. Fighting, I'm sure it's important for them. Success is important for them. And when you put it all on the line, it's normal to be afraid. However, it has nothing to do with the fight. Are we gonna fight or not? Like they use that as a UFC used that as a tactic to make him accept the fight, and they did that for me for years. Being afraid or not being afraid, or it's not like in the schoolyard. We're not like in the schoolyard when someone will run away. If the price is good, even though he's afraid, and he should be afraid, he's a scary guy who's about to fight. You know, regardless of how he feels, he will do the job. He will bite in his mouthpiece and do it. I was afraid. Personally, I can talk about myself. I was afraid before every fight.
Which one made you most afraid?
Every fight.
Was there one
I can
fight?
tell you which one made I was the least afraid.
Which one?
It was Matt
Serra.
Serra. And I got knocked out. Matt Serra is the only fight in my entire life. And I'm saying life, I'm talking even about amateur competition. When I was a kid in karate and wrestling. It's the only fight that I had a good night of sleep the week before all the way through the fight. I had it all figured out. I didn't make those crazy scenarios in my mind. I didn't rethink of it. This idea of fighting, of losing didn't haunt me. It needs to be, fear, it's a good thing. And people are like, oh, he's afraid. It's stupid to say that because of course he's afraid. And of course I'm going to tell you the scoop. I'm sure Francis is afraid too, you know, but it doesn't matter if they're afraid or not. If the numbers is good, hopefully they will fight, and this fight will make history, you know, and hopefully it happened. But I was afraid every fight, but it does not matter, you know, because as much as I'm afraid, you know, I'm by no means a perfect man, by no means, but one thing that I'm not a coward. And no matter who I'm fighting, and if the contract is good, everything is good, I'm going to go out there, and I don't care about how I feel because it's subjectivity. I only care about the objective. What I need to do in order to take you out of your comfort zone. And this need to be done at all costs. Me, myself, how I feel, if I'm sick or not, what the other people think, that does not exist. The only thing that exists and matter is the objectivity, the things that you need to do to succeed. And these need to be done at all costs. That's how you should think when you have a fight coming up. That's how they should. People, they don't know that because they cannot, nobody can really rely to that because not everybody that is a fighter. But I know as a fighter, I can tell you for certain that I'm sure they are both afraid. It's normal. Every fight, you're kind of afraid. You can be confident, but you always have this idea in the back of your mind that, man, if I mess up, I could lose everything, all my legacy and everything. It's normal. And you should feel this way. Because if you don't feel this way, my friend, it's the end of their career. And that's when you take the big dive, and now it's loss after loss after loss after loss. Hopefully they both afraid, because we want to see a good fight, and I want to see the best of both guys to see who's the best man.
Yeah, well, Hickson said that as well. You know, and people say, "Are you afraid?" He says, "I'm always afraid." He goes, "If you tell me that someone's not afraid, I'm like, that's a crazy person."
Bro, it's because you have do you have a pride? Are you a proud person? You want to be knocked out in front of everybody, no, I'm a proud person. I don't want to be knocked out. I don't want to be humiliated. I'm afraid, not like a kid in the schoolyard that I'm afraid I'm running. I'm afraid to not perform at my best. I'm afraid that I zig when I should have zag. And I used to seek the help of sport psychologists because of that. Because when I was looking around, when I was competing, everybody is putting a mask on. Everybody is saying, like, oh, they use the word excited. Hey, I'm excited. And even the sport psychologists used to tell me, George, stop saying you're afraid. You're excited. That does not apply here. Like, I know my English is not perfect, sir, but you know, my sport psychologist is American. He was American. He says, you don't stop saying you're afraid. I know you're afraid that you had the same experience with Matsero. It repeats itself, but you're excited to fight. I'm like, no, I'm not excited. I'm not afraid to admit that I'm afraid. I'm excited if I'm in Montreal when it's minus 20 degrees Celsius and I know I'm going next week in vacation to the beach in Miami. I'm excited. Or if I fast, if I fasted for 3 days and I'm about to eat my favorite dish, I'm excited. I'm not afraid to not knowing if I will perhaps be badly hurt, humiliated, or win the ultimate prize. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. And it does not matter on the result with the fight would happen or not, because even if they are afraid, which they should, if the instigator of the fight are made and are correct, this hopefully will happen, and we will have a great show.
I don't think that's what's keeping them from fighting each other. I don't believe that John Jones is afraid in terms of, I think for sure there's a high level of anticipation. There's going to be some worry when it comes to the fight. There's going to be some nervousness for sure. But I don't think he's afraid in terms of that's why he's not fighting Francis, because he's scared to fight Francis. I think it's a negotiation issue.
Yes.
For sure. But I think that he makes a lot of good points. This is the biggest fight. The fight, if John Jones fights Francis Ngannou, you have John, again, he's undefeated. No one's beaten him.
He should retire. He has nothing else to accomplish.
If he wants to.
Oh, man.
Yes.
It's amazing.
If he wants to, he can retire. John's made millions of dollars. You know, I think if they do fight, it will be the biggest fight in the history of the sport. And I also believe he needs to be paid accordingly.
100%. And if he wins that, that's the thing why the UFC might think about the business side. And we've seen that often happen. Let's say he fight, like every fight left that could happen can only downgrade him because everybody will expect him to win. He's victim of his own success.
Well, up until this fight, everybody expected him to win up until this fight.
No, exactly.
Yes.
But if he wins that fight,
well, if
what's left for it?
Rematch. It depends on how he wins.
Yeah, but maybe the UFC
could be a war.
Maybe the UFC is aware of that, and they keep the ball. They want to keep the ball rolling.
Is that what you think?
I think that's why the fight with Khabib and I did not happen, and I think that's why a lot of fights do not happen because UFC it's a business, you know.
Well, I think with Khabib and you, the primary concern was that you were going to do what you did with the Bisping fight. Mm-hmm. You fought Bisping, you won the title, and you're like, have your title back. See ya.
Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but I got sick too. I got a ulcer colitis.
Yes.
And it
we'll
was
talk about that too.
Yeah.
Do you think that was because of the amount of food that you were eating? Because you see, this is also parallels what Gordon Ryan is dealing with. You know,
he told you. Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah. No, he's talked about it publicly.
He called me for this.
Well, Gordon has like an issue because he's eating all the time to try to maintain his mass.
And Gordon, he gained a lot of weight.
A lot of weight,
you know,
and he lifts weights constantly, and he's eating all day long. You were in that same situation where you had to force yourself to eat to put on the weight necessary to fight at 185 pounds.
I only gained 10 pounds. Normally, like I am now, and like I always been, I'm about 184 pounds, 185.
Walking around. That's
Walking
your
around.
natural weight.
For the fight with Bisping, I went up to 195. It took me a few months, like maybe 2 months to reach that because I was eating all the time.
Did you consult a nutritionist?
Yes.
How did you do it? What did you do?
I consult a guy, but it's different in bodybuilding and in MMA. I was taking protein shake too on top of that, and creatine. It's a food supplement that help water retention. And I told the guy, I said I didn't like it because it's good for explosion, for dynamic thing. However, when I grappled, I felt I was having cramp. When I was doing like isometric tension, like squeezing, I was having cramp.
You think that was creatine?
I think that's what it was. So I stopped it at first, but I kept eating. And I got bigger. I got 195. But that was a mistake, Joe. I should never have done that because I believe there's a genetic component. There's also because I believe it's the stress and the fact that I eat too much. I developed a situation called ulcer colitis. I had very severe cramps at the point that, man, it was blood and it was very, very bad. Joe, I thought at one point I had maybe cancer. It was very bad. But that fight was postponed a few times and had so much drama around it. I knew that if I asked to postpone it because I wanted to do a colonoscopy, and when you do a colonoscopy, they give you laxative to empty you. And I was trying to gain weight. I was not trying to lose weight.
Right.
So I told myself, whatever it is, the fight is happening very soon. I'm going to fight and I'm going to do the exam after. So I did this. I won the fight. It was great. Then I went to do the exam. I found out I was diagnosed with ulcer colitis, which is a condition that you're stuck for life with. So I was on severe medication. And
what kind of medication?
It's called Salofalk. It's something you put inside of yourself. You know,
your
like,
ass?
Yes, every night before you go to bed. You know. Yeah.
What a way to go to bed.
It's a very strong anti-inflammatory for the intestine. So it got me. I got better from it, but I see it more as like a bandage that you put on an injury. Like I wanted to heal it at the core, and I'm not a fan of medication. I'm more a fan of always look for the natural way of doing things. So I investigate about fasting, and I found out that through internet research that the best way to deal with this for a lot of people, it was through fasting. And I met with Dr. Jason Fong, who convinced me to start fasting. And I practice long-term fasting, like I do. I go 4 times a year, up to 3 days water fast. And I train during those 3 days. And I supplement myself with Himalayan salt to make sure I don't deplete my minerals. So I do that 4 times a year. And I do also time-restricted eating. Like 16/8, and days that I do not train, I only eat once a day, and that's what I did. And immediately when I start that, I even went on a scan at McGill University. A scan is very accurate to see the changes on my body because my biggest concern was to lose muscle. So it turns out that I did 2 months after my Bisping fight. So it turns out that I lost 10 pounds. You know, I didn't lose muscle mass. I didn't lose bone density. I lost a lot of water retention. A lot. It was the biggest loss that I had, and fat percentage. So basically, overfeeding myself gives me dead weight because all the weight that I was carrying was not solid muscular weight, was like a bag that I carry on my shoulder. So I would have probably be better just competing in my natural weight. And perhaps I would not have had that ulcer colitis problem because now I'm stuck with it. I'm symptoms free. I'm symptoms free, bro. I'm symptoms free. I cannot recommend fasting to any of the audience because everybody is different, right? Everybody has different genetics and problems. However, it's worth to investigate. For me, I'm symptoms free. It took a few months that I was symptoms free. And I mix fasting. Also, I eat a lot of fermented food, collagen supplement. There's different kinds of collagen, different spectrum. And there's a certain spectrums that are good for your gut.
What fermented foods did you find helped you the most?
Kimchi, and I make my own.
I love kimchi.
I make my own jun. I made it.
Jun.
Jun. It's like kombucha.
Okay.
You have a mushroom. You put green tea with
sugar.
Yeah, you let it infuse the green tea in water. Then you take out the green tea pocket. Then you put your honey in it inside. You mix, and then you put the mushroom. And the one that the mushroom used to be in, that's the one that you drink. It looks disgusting, but that's how I get rid of it. And it's an acquired taste. After a while, you kind of loved it, and it's very strong.
How is it different from kombucha?
I guess I think the mushroom is different. You know,
Can you spell it?
it's Jun, G-U-N,
G,
Jun.
like gun.
Gun, yeah. I think
G-U-N.
in English could be gun. J-U-N.
Okay.
My grandmother used to do that.
Here it is.
That's
John
the one.
Kombucha.
Oh,
it is a kind of
actually,
kombucha.
it could be the same. Yeah.
It says similar to kombucha, differing only in that its base ingredients are green tea and honey instead of black tea and cane sugar. Oh, okay. So it's brewed with the same symbiotic culture of yeast and bacteria. So it seems like it's the same mushroom. Does it look like that in the center?
It is exactly like that.
Okay. I used to make my own mushroom. Or make my own kombucha.
It looks disgusting.
Oh, look at the difference.
And when I did it in the beginning, I was concerned because it looks so disgusting. I'm like, am I gonna get sick? And yes, in the beginning, when you first drink it, because you mix it with sparkling water, it makes you have kind of a little bit of cramp because it's bad. It's not bad. It's bacteria that you put inside of your stomach. However, you get used to it and Right now, I'm telling you the truth. I might still have ulcer colitis, but I'm symptoms free, but
if you don't have symptoms, like why would you have colitis? I don't understand. Like, isn't it all about whether or not it's active?
Inside of me? It will be inside of me, and
Forever?
I think yes, and I think the fact that I'm fasting, that's why I can drink and I can drink if I want to. I can eat chocolate. I can eat whatever I want. It took me a few months to get symptoms free, but I still have it because sometimes you still feel it a little bit, but very soon I'm very excited because I need to go back to the doctor to make another checkup. And if it's very unlikely. It would defy science if I don't have it. But if I do, it turns out that I don't have it, I would be like, oh, that's the blueprint to beat this. Because the doctor told me I have it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, but isn't that also because most people don't fast the way you fast, and most people wouldn't be disciplined enough to do what you're doing with intermittent fasting as well as the 3-day water fast? Like, how many people do that? No, very few.
It's not that hard.
But the thing is, like, when you tell that to people, the percentage of people that will actually go and do it are so small.
Joe, if you would have come up to me before I had ulcer colitis and talked to me about fasting, it would have come in my hair and go out right away, because I'm part of that society where we're bombarded by publicity. Oh, buy this, drink this, protein shake, this, that. And I'm part of that culture too, so I was kind of brainwashed. I was forced to try fasting because I was ill. If I wouldn't not be ill, there is no way in the world you could have convinced me to that.
Right.
And that's what led me to my other question. Carnivore diet. I want to try this.
You should try it.
Talk to me about it.
Well,
it sounds insane to me.
I only did it strictly for 1 month. And during that month, I lost 13 pounds, and I felt fucking great. I had so much energy. I got really lean and shredded.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, my God. And I had so much energy, but not just energy, mental energy, which is interesting. But I only did it for a month. Like I most of the time eat that way where I don't eat a lot of sugar, but I do love food. I love to go to a restaurant and order pasta.
Yeah.
I love salad. I like a delicious salad.
You're Italian, right?
Yes, I'm Italian.
Yeah, that's
so
nice.
I love good food. I love chef's creations.
Yeah.
I love sushi. I like to go to a great sushi place. And so my problem is I enjoy the act of going to dinner and eating at a nice restaurant. I like wine. I like eating dessert. I like all that stuff.
When you did it, did you supplement?
No. Well, yes,
Wow.
vitamins. Just vitamins. But that's it.
Okay, but that's my question. I traveled to Africa in Kenya. I went to Masai Mara. I did a safari. I took my dad there, and I met a tribe there. They called the Masai. Very beautiful people, Joe. And you should see they're shredded. A lot of them they
Eat only meat.
Only meat, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, like 90% meat. Yeah, they eat roots sometimes. And how about the Eskimos? Same thing.
Yeah.
They eat fish. So
How about the Comanche? The Comanche Indians, who are the most fierce of all the tribes. They actually roamed this part of the world in Texas.
wow.
They only ate buffalo. That's all they ate.
However, I've been told that they don't eat the filet mignon. They look
No,
for the
fat.
organs. The organs.
And fatty meats. That's
So-
what they want. Yeah.
So when you did your carnivore diet, did you eat organs as well?
Yeah, I ate a lot of liver. I ate liver. I even took supplements, like liver supplements. There's the company called Heart and Soil, and they sell desiccated supplements like desiccated liver. And so it's dehydrated liver and heart and all these different things. I took a lot of that stuff, but mostly what I ate was wild game because I hunt, so I ate mostly elk. But I also
it's
ate
very lean.
very lean. But I also ate bacon with that to sort of supplement to give myself fat. I ate ribeye steaks. If I ate beef, I ate ribeye steaks. If I ate buffalo, I also ate ribeyes.
When you say you eat ribeye and everything, is it did you always made sure that everything was grass fed and
No, but
didn't care.
But I think that's better for you. I do believe that's better for you. But I didn't. I ate some corn fed because it had more fat to it.
Yes.
I think fat is the most important thing because you can't. There's a thing called rabbit starvation. Have you ever heard of that?
I'm not sure. Perhaps
Rabbits are so lean that if you eat only rabbits, you'll actually starve to death.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's very dangerous because you don't have any fat. Like they're not getting any fat out of your diet.
So you're going keto in a way, like
it's not just keto.
Yeah, it's you
Keto, you burn fat,
Yes.
right? But with only like 100% completely lean meat and nothing else, your body does not like that. Your body wants fat for fuel. There's a thing called gluconeogenesis that when you eat enough protein, your body converts that protein to glucose.
Okay.
But when you need some fat, like fat is actually, we're programmed to think that, I want to eat low fat. That's fucking terrible for you. Low fat is awful for you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
low fat stuff. Like lean meat is not bad, but you do need fat. And fat is an important component for your diet, whether it's fat from avocado, fat from nuts and macadamia nuts, or whether it's a vegan fat or vegetarian fat, or whether it's fat from eggs. Like people think that, I want to eat all egg whites. That's fucking terrible.
Nah, it's not good.
Yolk is where the most of the nutrients are. Yolks are good for you.
And when you say carnivore diet, do you eat fish as well?
Yes, just
Fish,
animal
eggs.
protein, fish,
Okay.
eggs, meat. And I did it for an entire month, and I'm telling you, I felt really good.
But you need to be crazy disciplines,
Yes.
Like I'm part. I did my DNA test. I'm part Italian, so I'm like 15%. So I don't know why, but that's perhaps why I love to eat a lot of like pasta and stuff like that.
Well,
so
it's just delicious,
I don't think I can sustain that for 1 month, but I want to.
Oh, you could do it for a month. I'm sure you could do it for a
no
month.
chocolate, nothing, man.
No.
It sucks.
Well, the entire month, you know what I did?
Suck.
I had a couple of pieces of chili mango. Like, but one of my favorite desserts is chili mango. You ever have that Mexican treat? It's like a dried mango with chili powder on it. Oh, it's so good. It's one of my favorite cheat meals is chili mango. I love it.
Joe, I don't think I have your discipline.
Oh, of course you do.
I might do it for a week, not for a month.
On, man. You can do it.
Did you take a picture of before after or went in a scan?
I was lucky that I was pretty fat before I did it. I'd gotten to like 205 pounds and I just had gotten like a lot of like side fat and my stomach was bloated. I was eating so much pasta. That's my problem. Is I fucking love pasta, and pasta makes me like, bleh, I get a belly.
I love pasta.
Pasta and beer make my fucking stomach fat, and I'm a glutton, man. I don't when I eat well past the point where I'm satisfied. I just gorge myself. It's a real.
But don't you think that's how we're supposed to be? If you look at hunter-gatherer, food was scared.
Right, scarce. Yes.
And they didn't have food. They didn't know when it was the last time they could eat. So they used to feed as much as they can, then wait for the next one, right?
I think that's
how we should do.
It's a good excuse. But the reality is... I'm a glutton. I'm a glutton. I am. I really am. Like yesterday, I had an ice cream sundae. My kids wanted to get ice cream. We got some ice cream, and then I was like, "Give me a fucking ice cream sundae." And I ate so much, I felt disgusting afterwards. Yeah. But while I was eating it, I was like, bah! I have gluttonous instincts when it comes to food. I always overeat.
Bro, it's a pleasure of life, and I wouldn't be fully happy if I cannot enjoy it, and I think the fact that I'm fasting made me able to enjoy it.
Yes, you've paid the price.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like sleeping, eating,
Well, that's why I never stuck with the carnivore diet, is because I enjoy all kinds of food. I am a fan of culinary arts. Like, I'm not much of a cook. I can cook meat. I'm good at that. And I can cook some pasta dishes and a couple other things. But I love chefs. I respect the art form. I was good friends with Anthony Bourdain, and I learned a lot from him. And I learned a lot, first of all, before I ever met him, watching his program. But I love watching people cook. I love television shows on cooking. I love talking to chefs. Man. There's some of my favorite people to talk to. I think they create a temporary art. That's what that is. It's an art form that you take in with your mouth, with your smells, and the just looking at it. I love food. I just love it.
We forget sometimes how much we're spoiled today.
True.
Like I'm just thinking about, like, you go back 13,000 years ago, man. I was in LA like right before I come here. I went to La Brea Tarp. Man.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Imagine, man, you kill an animal, you have to eat. And you eat the bone marrow, you eat everything. You need to eat it fast because there is other predatory animal like Slimodon, and man, it's just a scary thing. And ice ages. Forget about the nice jacket that we have. Forget about Montreal. How cold is Montreal? Go to an ice age, man. Yeah. When you have like saber-toothed cat like running after you. Mm-hmm. Holy shoot! It's like, man, our ancestors are incredibly tough. Like, we're the fact spoiled that we made
as
hell.
The fact that human beings made it to 2021 with these soft bodies. We're so soft just compared to like dogs. Like you ever see dogs fight with each other? They bite each other, and there's nothing happens to them. They got like little tiny holes in them. If a dog bit me, my arm would be fucked. It'd be torn apart. Man. We're so weak compared to most animals.
Where are we going with our society? I think we're gonna lose muscle. AI will take. I was asking Lex Freeman. I was like, because I was concerned. I asked him. I said, "What do you think about AI? Do you think it could be a threat?" Because I hear Elon Musk on your podcast.
He's terrified of it.
He's terrified.
And so is Sam Harris. Sam Harris is also equally fearful of the potential downsides, and two of the most brilliant people that I know.
I'm afraid that in a way that AI could be a good thing for the development of human. However, in order to keep us safe, it would need to eliminate us because for our little monkey brain plan, you and me, or like us as human, who might think of doing certain things is the greater things for the greater of the humanity, but maybe it's not, and if you have a superior intelligence that control, what I mean, perhaps they will protect us against ourselves, and the only way to do that is by eliminating some of the human. I don't know, like look what we do to the planet, man. It's crazy. Sometimes it makes me scared.
Well, I think what we are is an imperfect creature, right? So if you went back to ancient primates, Australopithecus or any of the ancient primates, and you said to them, one day you're not going to have any hair on your body, or very little hair, and you're going to have to wear clothes everywhere, and your feet are going to be so soft you're going to have to wear shoes, and then you're going to be protected because you can't live outside because your body's too weak, so you're going to be protected by structures, and you're not going to hunt anymore. You're just going to go to a store, and because of that you're going to eat whatever you want, so you're going to get fat, and you're going to be really lazy because you can be lazy, and society's going to protect you. So it's going to give you all this food and resources, and they're going to protect you and make you softer and softer and more dependent upon these systems that really don't give a shit about you. They need massive amounts of people in order to give the resources so that they can keep these structures intact, whether it's government or political structures or society, and they're going to try to make men as toxic. They're going to look at the idea of masculinity as being the most dangerous thing, and aggression is the most dangerous thing. All the things that made human beings what we are today. Yeah. Men had to be strong. We needed to conquer, and we needed to fight off other conquerors that were trying to take over our land, and we needed to be able to fight off predators. Well, that's not necessary anymore. So all those male instincts are going to be shunned and looked at as the worst possible part of our society and our culture, which is the only thing that really got us to where we are today.
I think if you say that to that Australopithecus, he will find it absurd.
Yes.
And he will not be willing to go towards that direction.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying about AI. Perhaps we don't know what is the best thing for us.
I believe that AI, let's forget about artificial intelligence or AI, is just it's a term. I think technology is impossible to avoid at this stage of human evolution. And I think most likely we are going to integrate with it. And what Elon Musk is trying to do with Neuralink, are you aware of Neuralink?
Yeah, I've heard about what he... Not too much, but I'm not educated like you, Elon Musk, but I've heard about what he's saying.
Hilarious, he put me and Elon Musk in the same sentence. But the concept is that there's gonna be an invention that increases the bandwidth. Now, first, it's going to be used of people that have neurological disorders and injuries and spinal cord injuries, and it's going to try to bridge the gap between the person's injury and their potential as a person. They're going to be able to figure out a way to allow them to utilize their body in a way that they couldn't use it before because of the injury. But then eventually it's going to be something once it becomes more. Once they become more proficient, once they get better at this technology, once this technology innovates sufficiently and get more and more advanced, they're going to get to a point where it's going to be something that normal people use, because it's going to increase the bandwidth between human beings and information, and also increase the physical capability of the body. And then with CRISPR is a technology that allows gene editing. With that, and with these integrated technologies like Neuralink and whatever comes after Neuralink. Neuralink is just one. The Morse code was one like method of communication that existed a couple hundred years ago, and then now it's a joke in comparison to what we have today. Well, you take Neuralink and you go a couple hundred years from now, what kind of symbiotic technologies are we gonna have? It's gonna be nuts.
It's like having a cell phone connected directly to your brain, right? Or Google, or even more.
Much more advanced. This is the first step. It's going to be godlike. Human beings are going to have... I think when you look at aliens, like when you think of the archetypal alien, the archetype alien, where they have these iconic images of this large head,
the grays,
little tiny bodies where they have no muscle, that's going to be us. I think what we're seeing when we see those things, if they are real, if people are experiencing those things, I think that's probably us in the future. Yeah. Or if not us, some beings from other galaxies or other planets or other parts of the universe, other solar systems. That's probably what happens if your civilization stays intact, and you reach 1,000 years from now, 1,000,000 years from now, from where we are. If they're similar to us in their developmental cycle, I think that's where we're going.
Your brain, you lose your skin became pale.
Yeah. If you look at us compared to chimps, right? Chimps have smaller brains and bigger muscles. Well, as they get further and further advanced, the head gets larger, the body gets softer. And then you get further and further advanced from that, you get to the point where the muscles are just almost non-existent. And you just like these stick-like bodies and these enormous heads, because your brain, and this is assuming, right, that these are biological entities in the first place. Like maybe there's some sort of a combination of biology and
robot,
intelligence, or artificial intelligence and technology, to the point where they don't even reproduce with sex. Like the thing that people always say about these, they have no genitals, and their mouth doesn't even need to move around because they probably communicate telepathically. And one of the things that Elon said when I talked to him about Neuralink, he said, you're not going to need to talk to communicate. You're going to be able to talk through your mind. You're going to be able to express. And so that's what they always say about these alien beings. And
that's going to be very hard to do, because if we say a word, for example, mother, maybe mother for you is someone that took good care of you and everything, but for another person, mother is someone who beat the hell out of him. You
right,
know?
but you're thinking about it in terms.
It's very hard
but that's a word. You're thinking in terms of the meaning that you attach to a word.
Yes.
What you're going to be able to do is convey intent. You're going to be able to convey thoughts and concepts which will be universally recognized without the use of language.
Oh.
So the problem we're thinking of is like the word, like if you use Russian, the Russian word for stove is different than a German word for a stove, which is different than a Japanese word. It's all like, it's hard. That's one of the things about when people translate, and you know this better than anybody because you speak multiple languages.
Yeah.
When you translate something from French to English, it's difficult finding the appropriate word. Well, I think we're going to be able to convey thoughts without use of language, and so it'll be more universal.
Wow.
This is one of the things that they say, people that have been abducted. I had Travis Walton, this guy.
I've seen, I've watched it.
His bobblehead.
Yeah, I've watched it.
Very compelling in his descriptions of his encounter with these beings. But one of the things that he was saying was they were talking to him, but it wasn't with words. Like they were communicating with him, and he understood what they were saying, but it wasn't. They weren't saying things in a like, hey, Travis, why don't you relax? Because we're here from planet fucking whatever it is.
The information was flowing faster because it was like, boom, right away, what I think, you get it.
Yes.
Right?
They were explaining things to him in some sort of a telepathic way.
Wow.
And it was mind-blowing to him. And I think that that's probably the future of communication. Just like you can transmit information from phone to phone, right? You can call people. They're nowhere near you, but you can talk to them. You can send a video to someone. It's going through the air. It's just data, right? It's just information.
Do you think Travis and Bob Lazar and all these guys that have extraordinary claim believe what they are telling you? I don't know if what they believe is true, but what do you think they believe what they are telling you in a way that they're not lying, they're telling the truth of what they're believing?
I can't tell for certain, but I believe Bob Lazar. I believe what he's saying is true. I believe he's telling me. Now, Bob, he had one moment where he was passing by a window and he said he saw something that was small and these people were standing over it, and he didn't know if it was an alien or whether it was a some sort of a form that they were trying, like a doll or something that's supposed to represent the size of an alien or some sort of a model of an alien. But he remembers he looked briefly through a window and he saw something small. He didn't see it move around. He didn't see it talk. So he doesn't know what he saw. Yeah. Because in his world, as he explained it, when he was working at Area 51, Site 4, that's where he worked, he said that it was very compartmentalized. And his thing was one of the problems with them trying to figure out, now this is assuming he's telling the truth.
Yeah, of course.
One of the problems they were trying to figure out was how to back engineer these devices, these ships. But the problem was they weren't allowed to communicate with other people outside of this very limited group of people that had access to these vehicles. And the people that were involved in the metallurgy were not allowed to communicate with the people that were involved in whatever the propulsion system was. They didn't understand what they were trying to decipher these things. But he said, and if you listen to the podcast that I did with him, that it didn't it didn't work because the scientific method requires multiple people to communicate and share ideas and explain, and they didn't do that.
You can't improve like that.
Right.
You need to share idea.
Right.
You can't do something and compartmentalize everything.
But my communication with him, I don't know if he was telling me the truth, but he didn't seem deceptive. And he's a brilliant guy. When you
it's clear he's clearly like borderline genius. You hear him speak, he's very educated.
And some of the things that he talked about came to fruition. Like one of the things was there was a concept of this thing called element 115, right?
Yeah.
Now that was not really proven until the 2000s or somewhere in the 2000s. They used a particle collider and created this thing where it was a very unstable, very short-lived particle. But he was saying that wherever these beings are from, they have figured out a way to utilize a stable version of this element 115, and that's how they propel themselves. The things that he was describing were also exactly the same things that were experienced by Commander David Fravor, who was a guy who is a jet pilot.
I saw, yeah.
Yeah, and so he experienced this thing move in that same direction, that same way, where there was no visible propulsion system, but they tracked this thing going from 80,000 feet above sea level to 1 in 1 second. So that's the amount of time that it takes radar to track this. So it might have been less than a second.
Yeah,
this thing traveled from 80,000 feet to 1,000.
No time.
To 1 feet.
It's like that thing with the hand. He says he measured the distance between the bone and the, when you get in, you put your hand in it and measure the distance between your bone and the...
the scanner.
Yeah.
Yes, the scanner.
There is a lot of things like this. Like Zacharias Sitchin was... there's a lot of stuff that you can think of that how could they know that at the time? But it's
well, the Zacharias Sitchin stuff is interesting, right?
Yes.
That's all the Sumerian text. The Sumerian text is some fascinating stuff because it's all from 6,000 years ago. And by the way, Zacharias Sitchin, he's very controversial. There's even a website called SitchinIsWrong.com, and it's basically scholars of ancient Sumerian who say that his translations are completely off. But even if his translations are off, there's still a lot of really confusing stuff about ancient Sumer. And one of the things is their depictions of the solar system. They had a depiction of the solar system 6,000 years ago that shows the sun in the center, and it shows all of the known planets in the outside, and they're relatively accurate in terms of the size.
Yeah, and how about the formation of the Earth? Tiamat, Marduk. I don't remember which one is what, that's
the formation of the Earth.
That's the model that
Yes.
we use today.
Well, the scientists...
The asteroid belt,
Yes.
That's the model that we use today. How did he know that at that time?
I don't know how they knew that. When you're saying it's Earth 1 and Earth 2, and what that means is that there was an original version of Earth, and then Earth was hit by another planet at some point in the distant past, and that's what created the moon, and that's also what created the asteroid belt.
That goes on the different direction than the rest of the planet. Like they knew that too.
Well, there's also a thing called Bode's Law, and Bode's Law measures the distance between planets, and it's based on the mass of the planet, and they figure out, because of the mass of the planet, how far these planets are from each other. And one of the things that fucks that up is the asteroid belt. I think what I might be wrong about this, but the distance between Mars and Jupiter is one of the things that screws that up, and they think that's explained by the asteroid belt, that some collision created this asteroid belt and created all of the... there's something like 900,000 known near-Earth objects that were created by the impact of these planets.
One thing I believe, and I'm sure you're the same because you had a lot of these guys on your podcast, like Graham Hancock,
Yes.
Randall Carson, Jonathan E. West. There's clearly knowledge that we've lost in the past. This is for sure. Just think about the Library of Alexandria.
Yes.
Man, imagine the knowledge that it wasn't there before it burned.
I know. Imagine.
Oh man,
Imagine.
people thinks we lost like 1 millennia, like just when it burns out
Well,
of knowledge, you know, medicine, botany,
Yes.
science. It's just crazy to think of. So some very often, sometimes when crazy stuff happen like that, like I just think that perhaps they had knowledge that there's knowledge that we lost. Like just think about the Greek fire. It's a weapon that was used in the naval battle, and it's really known about historian. You can research. They still don't know exactly how it works, but it was so destructive. It was like at the time it was like a secret weapon, like they didn't want to share, and it was known to be very efficient in naval battle.
I don't know what that is. I don't know about
Greek fire. If you go Greek fire, you'll get it. Boom. It was used in naval battle. So they used to throw fire, flames, and people that are burning, they still burn in the water. So they think it was made with some kinds of petrol or they still don't know. They cannot recreate it. And it's clearly something that a lot of historians have talked about. It's called Greek fire. It's just an example that it's clear that it's a technology that we have lost.
Well, if you just look at the pyramids, the pyramids are a perfect example of technology lost. It's almost like the best example. Like those ancient civilizations almost letting everyone know, hey, there is information that we have that's so above and beyond what's expected of people from this era. Yeah. Because if you think about people that lived 2,500 BC, you don't think about someone that had the kind of proficiency to create something that, when people don't understand, it's not just that the pyramids were big, but they were so perfectly designed that when they put all the stones, they reached the top. Like if anyone was off by even a half an inch at the bottom, as time went on, an inch here, an inch there, by the time they got to the top, it would be all fucked up. It wouldn't be perfect. But the pyramids were so amazingly perfect, and they were originally covered in smooth limestone. So smooth, polished limestone that would probably be insane to look at if you were staring at it from a distance. Like this immense structure of 2,300,000 stones, some of them cut from quarries hundreds of miles away, all perfectly aligned and put together by these people that lived thousands and thousands of years ago.
You know, the most scholars would say that they use a ramp, but if you think about it, like there's other scholars that would counter that by saying the construction of that ramp need to be in an angle that it could be so difficult to do that it will challenge the construction of the pyramid itself, you know?
Well, again, it's like maybe they use a ramp. I don't know what they used.
We don't know, yeah.
But whatever they used, it's so amazingly precise that they were able to make this 2,300,000 stone structure. This still to this day. I haven't been, but I have friends that have gone. Like my friend Andrew Schultz just went. Danica Patrick, the race car driver, she told me she just went. People that I know that have been. My friend Eddie Bravo, when he went, he's like, you get there, you're like, what the fuck? Yeah. It's so big, apparently.
It's like an awakening.
Yes, that our idea of what it is, when you see it in a photograph, it looks incredible. But I guess I need to go, because I guess when you see it in person, it's just like a complete reset. Like it recalibrates what people are capable of, because you have to think like, man, this is 4,500 years old.
Think about Darren Couillou, Gobekli Tepe.
Yes.
Man, it's
Gobekli Tepe's 10,000 years older, right?
Yeah, it's like 12,000 years old, you know,
at least.
How do you conceive that? And sometimes what happens is that it gets infected by other civilization that passed there after that construction. So they think they are the one that built it. I think is it Pumapunku, the one that there's clearly two different technology. You see the stone are perfectly aligned with perfectly cut. Yes. Then you have other stone that are just on top, like it's like a butcher's job, you know, and it's clearly not the same technology, the same people that built these two layers, you know.
Right.
So
well, that was also John Anthony West's concept of Egypt, that there's multiple eras. and that if you go deeper, like some of the stuff that they found when they dig deeper in the sand was a different construction method. It looked different designs, but still equally complex and fascinating. It's like there's probably many eras of human civilization, and there's probably been whatever it is, whether it's disease or some sort of a natural disaster or something that happened. Asteroidal impact was John Anthony or was Randall Carlson's and Graham Hancock's. That's their theory. Is
12,000 years ago, the end of the Pleistocene era.
Yeah,
but Homo sapien is date to 3,000 years old. You know, so imagine
how many?
3,000.
No, Homo sapiens.
Homo sapiens 3,000.
I think it's older than that. I think it's several hundred.
300,000. Sorry.
Oh yes.
300,000. Sorry, my English.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Homo sapien is 300,000 in Morocco. That's just I'm 100% sure. That's why I read about this kind of stuff.
I think they think it's somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah. But so if you take that 300,000, sorry. 300,000 time for an evolution.
Right.
Why would it be only in the last 10,000 years that we would,
invent such invent structures?
It's kind of strange. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it's also we're so different from all the other animals. Like we're the only animal that wears shoes. We're the only animal that wears clothes. We're the only animal that really manipulates its environment the way we do. I mean, other animals think, bees make beehives and shit like that, but they don't do anything even remotely interesting in comparison to what we're capable of doing and what we have done for thousands and thousands of years. And why? One of the things that Bob Lazar said that he was taught when he was at Area S4, at Area 51 S4, was that one of the things that they were telling him was that human beings are the product of accelerated evolution, and that these creatures occasionally come back to check upon our progress. And which is crazy.
Wow.
But that might be how it works throughout the universe, is that these beings that are very far advanced, they come back and they see these creatures that are pretty close, and they give them a little boost. They push them ahead a little bit, because otherwise it would take so long. And maybe we don't have the amount of time because of the fact that we're in this fucking shooting gallery of asteroids, that these things come down and whatever progress you make is wiped out by impacts or by supervolcanoes.
It's crazy, but it's not that crazy. If you look at the belief of human being through evolution, like in ancient Greek, they believe in different, they were believing in different gods, like in different times, different civilization had different belief. Now some people believe Jesus walked on water, which is fine too. That's their belief, If you believe that human was, the result of alien beings, it's another belief,
it's not.
Everybody believe in different things.
It's not that crazy if you think about what we're doing. They just landed a helicopter on Mars, like yesterday.
It was recently.
Yeah. So we're doing weird shit by sending things to other planets, and they roam around and take photographs and send it back to us, and we watch these high-resolution images from the surface of Mars. This is just within the last, less than 100 years we're capable of doing this. Who knows what's going to happen within a few thousand years?
Yeah.
So if human beings stay alive and the Earth stays in one piece for a few thousand years, and then we're sending things out to various planets, and maybe that's what these beings are. Maybe these beings are these artificial intelligent robots that other intelligent entities have constructed and send out through the galaxy.
I'm going to tell you something in the future, because now we know there is more and more planets that are found in the Goldilocks zone, right? That could potentially be habitable. Man, I'm sure if in the future human being we find another civilization in one of those planets, we'll mess up with their genetic material.
For sure.
100%.
100%. 100%. If we found some monkey in the jungle and we said, listen, we'll keep most of them by the way they are. We'll take a few of them. We'll pull them aside and run some tests on them. But we take monkeys and we do experiments on them where we see if things are toxic. They try medicine on monkeys. They use makeup. They try makeup on monkeys to see if it's bad for them. They do all kinds of horrible experiments with monkeys, and they've done it forever to see cancer drugs and all sorts of other things are effective or toxic.
Some scientists are talking now that they think some of the monkeys have reached Stone Age. they use tools to fish and like it's crazy.
Yes, that's true, right? They think some primates have entered the Stone Age. Yeah,
they enter the Homo habilis part. You know, like when the habilis is when they use tools. You know, like that's kind of crazy. Like Homo habilis sort of a little bit. It's kind of nuts to think of that, you know.
It is interesting when you think of the possibility. It doesn't end here. It doesn't end with us. It's not like we're the perfect being and this is as advanced as things get. We know that we are far more advanced technologically than things that we're aware of historically, that we can for sure prove existed because we can watch videos of them. We can watch videos of people that lived in the 1920s. So we look at the way they lived, we look at the historical record of medical experiments and medical treatments that they did on people that were just 100, 200 years ago, where they wrote things down. They know we know exactly what people knew then as opposed to what they knew now. Shit, if we just go back to 1950, the comparison to people, what they did in terms of medicine and medical technology, it's so advanced now.
Yeah.
And this was 70 years later. It's not that long.
The progress go exponentially.
Yes.
Right? And you know, I'm wondering, and you know, we talk about perhaps the possibility of lost civilization. How advanced were they? Is that possible that they reached Mars and they're the one that left pyramids there? Or, you know, who knows? You know, in a crazy world, you never know, you know?
Well, if we were wiped out except for a few thousand people, and that few thousand people lived like cave people, lived like savages, and they made their way through, you know, the eras and eventually reinvented all the things that we have today, but there was no record left of what we have. Have you ever seen, like, some of those, there's photographs of places that were abandoned, and not that long ago in Russia, like, you know, places that were abandoned just a few decades ago.
Chernobyl, right?
Chernobyl's a good advantage.
Nature take over.
Yes.
It would destroy everything.
Yeah, 1,000 years from now, there wouldn't be shit left. There'd be except things like Göbekli Tepe, stone structures.
I had a chance to go on site, you know, for paleontology, and I asked some geologists. Like,
where'd you go?
I went to many places. I went to Argentina, Patagonia, and Alberta, Canada. I went to Dakota. Many places.
Wow.
I want to go in North Africa soon because there were very interesting life there. Back in the Cretaceous.
North Africa, like Egypt? Like what part?
Egypt, Morocco, and there's places that they're finding new fossil now. Like it was probably one of the most dangerous place to where they had like super predator. You know, like it was the niche for super predator was amazing. But what I was going to say, so yeah, I asked them. I said, how about a city like New York? How much time would it take to be destroyed by nature if an apocalypse happened? And it doesn't take that long.
1,000 years?
Yes, it doesn't take that long. Like they say, 1,000 years. That's the answer they gave me.
Yeah.
And they say to me that the things that will stay the longest is the structure that are built in rock.
Yeah. Stone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because a structure that will how do you say, the water will mix with the metal and will corrode and everything.
Yeah.
So all the building that we see, let's say there is like the ice sheet melt, like, or a comet hit Antarctica and there's like a big ocean rise. This can all go away in a blink of an eye, my friend. That's a scary thing.
It is. It's pretty scary. It'd be nothing but the foundations.
Yes, left. And that's what Randall Carlson talks about, right? He talks about the rapid rise of the ocean, which is maybe something that have happened in the past, and that's why perhaps we've lost everything, you know?
Well,
we're so dependent on cell phone and things. I don't know how to live as an hunter-gatherer anymore.
No, most people don't.
We will die, man. We will die. If we lose our technology, how would we survive?
Most people won't survive. Most people won't survive if we lose our technology. But some will, and they'll relearn things. And that's what Randall thought of, and that's the Younger Dryas impact theory. Yeah. That's what that is.
And that's mean we will become the myth, the folklore of the people who has technology. So
we'll be Atlantis. We'll be the theory of Atlantis.
Maybe that's what happened. I don't know, but
it's possible.
We live in a very interesting time.
Yeah.
We live in a very interesting time that we find out more and more about those things.
Well, you see how what happened just with coronavirus. just with the pandemic, where civilization sort of crumbles partially. I mean, things fall apart. In Los Angeles, you drive down the road and you see buildings boarded up. All these places that used to have thriving businesses are gone. Restaurants are gone. Tents are everywhere. People living on the street.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's just a very, in terms of the way diseases have impacted our culture, that's a small disease.
No, it's nothing.
It's a disease that only kills a small percentage of people.
Think of the black plague.
Oh, yeah.
Ebola, the
Yellow fever.
Oh my God, the black plague.
Yes.
Like 1/3 of Europe.
Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it lasted a long fucking time,
Yeah,
too.
man. Yeah.
Killed people for a long time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think they thought it was like because of their sins.
Yes.
They found out after it was because of the rat that carries the
Mites. Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, or ignorance sometimes take away our ability to evolve, right?
Well, I think we are clearly in an adolescent stage of learning and growing. And as much as we know now in comparison to what we knew 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, we're just learning. We're just beginning. And we're also in this very volatile environment in Earth. You know, we're ruining the planet, right? So we're polluting it. We're filling the atmosphere with all sorts of chemicals and bullshit, and we're fucking up the ocean and dumping chemicals in the rivers and streams, and we're pulling all the fish out of the ocean. It's chaos.
Yeah.
And we've got to right the ship.
Yeah.
You know, just even if nothing hits us, just even if we don't have Yellowstone has thousands of earthquakes every year. Like there's a massive super volcano in Yellowstone that every 600,000 to 800,000 years
we're overdue.
Blows up. Yeah, we're overdue.
Yeah,
we're overdue.
Do you think they will know ahead of time, or it will? Oh man, that scares me. You sure about that?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I know you do a lot of podcasts with different guys who are different scientists. Have you ever talked to a guy like this and ask him that question?
Yes.
Because that's presently my biggest fear.
Super volcanoes?
Like Yellowstone, that one is the one, because we're overdue.
Yeah, we're overdue.
And there is, I don't know if it's misinformation, but I pay attention to certain things on the internet sometimes, and I see that it start to move a little bit. Like they talk about some of the activity that goes on there.
It could happen quick.
That could be another apocalypse if it happens.
Yes, and it's
scary.
not the only one. There's multiple active supervolcanoes in the world that if they blow, we're fucked. Yeah. And I think if I was an alien civilization and I was monitoring Earth, and I'd be like, well, we got to help these things, move them along quicker, because the place they live is crazy. The place they live, they only have a certain amount of time to evolve in order to escape. If their life is going to get to a point where they're so advanced that they can populate the universe and move out into other galaxies, you got to help them. We got to help them, because these little monkeys they don't have a shot. they're gonna get hit by, as much as brilliant as they are, the incredible things they've created. They don't have enough time to evolve to the point where they could get out of there before they get hit.
We live in a zone that it's like crossing an highway with our eyes closed. You know,
that's
like,
a good way to put
boom!
it. That's a good
might
way to
get
put
hit
it.
by a comet or a volcano. Yeah, it's true. It's very unstable.
Yeah,
we think of that is stable because the life of a human being can perhaps extend to 100 years old, but it's been around for a long time.
That's part of the problem, right? Is that our life is so short that we don't have enough information. And unless people are writing things down, and even if they're writing things down, unless they're writing things down on stone, it's not going to survive past an apocalypse.
That's right. It disappears.
Because the paper is going to be gone, and like what they find things like they find like the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's all written on animal skins, and they found them in a tomb, a cave in Qumran. You know, like it's like these things, and they have to do DNA tests on the skins to make sure they align them together when they're trying to piece together these little pieces of a story that these people are trying to tell from thousands and thousands of years ago.
That's why I think Göbekli Tepe is so fascinating, because it's on rock, and there is carving of animals that are not even indigenous of that area.
Yes.
It's like, how the hell...
Not only that, the carvings aren't carvings. They're 3D structures. So like it's not like someone carved into the stone. They removed all the stone around it.
Who?
Have you ever seen it?
No, I
Pull
thought it
up
was.
some of the-
I thought it was carving.
It is a carving, but it's not a carving like there's a flat stone and there's a drawing carved in.
I think
it's a 3D thing. So that means they carved away all the stone around these little things, which is far more complex.
I think there's a message out there because they deliberately buried the whole site, man.
Yeah, they deliberately did, but they don't know who did that and they don't know why. So it goes to some of the other ones. There's some more interesting ones that show some of the weird shit of animals and stuff. But there's some of the cooler ones in Göbekli Tepe that show these 3-dimensional little creatures. See if you Google 3-dimensional stone carvings on Göbekli Tepe. That one right there. That one in the far left of your cursor, Jamie.
There's one
no, above that. Go above. Right there. Boom. So that's a perfect example.
Joe, there's one.
See, look at that one. That's a complete 3D thing. So they carved out all the stuff around it to create whatever that is, a lizard or whatever the fuck it is.
There's one that is an image of someone that is holding someone that is holding someone.
Yeah.
And that's that when you talk
shit.
about that when you talk about ancestors, what does that mean? Is that mean, you know what I mean? There's a lot of conspiracy theorists about that one. You know the one I'm talking about, the carving of you can't see the head, but you see it's like a human is holding a baby, but you don't know which one is the first one.
Is that it? I don't know. They're all cool.
Yeah.
It's cool shit.
I think could be a message there because I think there's something to learn out there. I mean, we live in a very interesting time. It's fascinating.
Well, one of the more fascinating things about the construction of the pyramids and the hieroglyphs is none of the hieroglyphs show like the pyramid like in various stages of construction. You would think you'd want to write that down.
Of course.
You're writing down all this other stuff like Enki and people traveling to the dark lands and this is the afterlife. They wrote all that stuff down. They didn't bother writing down how they created one of the most unless they did it in the Library of Alexandria and it got burnt up, but in the hieroglyphs, they don't have like a depiction of the pyramid in various stages or the Sphinx in various stages. There's only a couple images, I believe, of them even moving stones.
Wow, it's
wild shit, man.
Yeah, we don't know, and I think a lot of people are afraid to admit when they don't know, so they made up stories and
could be, could be.
It's,
and I think
it
archaeologists
takes courage and guts to say you don't know.
Well, archaeologists are also very reluctant to entertain any other ideas other than the ones they've been teaching and writing books about. So that's one of the things that Graham Hancock and also Robert Schoch ran into when they were trying to show images of the erosion that appears in the Temple of the Sphinx that seems to indicate that it's the result of thousands of years of rainfall.
Yeah.
They violently oppose these ideas.
Some say it's the wind, but
Their
argument are not very strong. I like the one of Robert Schoch much better.
Well, he's a geologist. I mean, his whole field of study is studying water, and I did a podcast with him too back in the day.
Really, I've seen
really
all that.
interesting stuff, man.
Yeah.
All those ideas are fascinating because if they're correct, and it seems like they are, it seems to indicate that this date that they put on civilization of Egypt, they have accurate dates about parts of Egypt, like the construction of the Great Pyramid, but this would predate that by thousands and thousands of years because it seems to indicate that the result of the erosion is a result of thousands of years of rainfall. The problem with that is the last time there was that kind of rainfall in the Nile Valley was 9,000 BC.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to go thousands of years before the construction of the pyramids.
So the reason why they put this date is because perhaps it has been contaminated by a more recent civilization that went there, but that doesn't mean that it's the one that built it.
Right. That's what they think about the Sphinx, because the head of the Sphinx is smaller than the rest of the body. And the head of the Sphinx is clearly a man. I think they probably did it like a pharaoh, probably, contracted them to build that. But it seems smaller. It's out of proportion to the rest of the Sphinx. So it's at one time it might have been a lion, and then some guy said like, "Fuck that lion, make my head."
I think I've heard to the. I think it's 11,800. It was pointing to the Leo constellation.
Yeah, the Leo constellation.
So
yeah,
that's why they think it's a lion. But
Well,
I don't know, man.
Who knows,
I'm
man?
too dumb to know, you know. But I
it's
like
interesting though.
I like to contemplate the idea. I just hope it is true, you know.
Yeah.
Because we feel so lonely, you know what I mean. I hope all that is true, and
Yeah, if there's anything that I hope that aliens are real.
yeah, but
And that's my problem with my own thinking about it, is that I want it to be true so badly that I almost ignore evidence to the contrary. That's also why I get angry when I talk to someone who's full of shit. When I know they're a liar, and I know that they're lying about UFOs and their ability to contact UFOs and all the information that they know. Like, okay, you don't know shit. The fucking government is trying to figure this out.
Sometimes people believe what they believe. You know, they believe their own stories, but it doesn't mean they are lying. They believe what they seen is what, you know what I mean? So they make their own movies in their mind. So, but what's your brain, your eyes look at the perception that it gives your brain. Sometimes it's not the truth.
Well, that's why the most fascinating encounter to me was Commander Fravor, because he's a fighter jet pilot and he knows what he's looking, and he's also doesn't have any other stories like that. He's a hardcore, like a legitimate pilot who doesn't have a history of telling fantastic stories. He has one encounter with this thing that behaved in a way that they can't explain, actively blocked their radar. It jammed their radar, which is technically an act of war, and then behaved in a way, like moved in a way that they can't explain. And they tracked it, and they have video of this thing, and they know it's a thing. They don't know what the fuck it is. They don't know what it was doing there or why it was doing there. And he also said that it was hovering above something that was in the ocean. It was some waves washing over this thing. So it was clearly some large craft, and it's hovering above it, and then met them and looked at them like it was turning towards them. So it was aware that they were there.
There's different theory about these things. You know, some people believe it could come from the deep down in the ocean. Some people, Jacques Vallée, believe it's from another dimension. Some people believe it's human from the future. Some people believe it's from another star system. Some people believe that everybody's full of shit and it's not true.
Yep. Who knows?
I don't know, man.
It's cool
but
to talk about, though.
I want it to be true,
Me
bro.
too.
I really want it. And it affects my judgment sometimes.
Yes, me too. I'm glad you're honest about that. That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
It affects my judgment. But hey, brother, so good to see you again. Thanks for being here, man. I really enjoyed it. Really
John,
very much. Always a pleasure.
Joe, thank you. And man, it's good to see you. You haven't aged a bit. You're like wine. You get better with age. And you're still carrying that bazooka of a spinning back kick as a little weapon in your pocket. It doesn't get better than this, my friend.
And you, my friend, you are you are a perfect example of a fighter who lived their career, did it all, became a champion, but then got out on your own terms. And I love that you're a great example to young fighters coming up.
Thank you, Joe.
Perfect model.
I want to be like you when I grow up.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.